90% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Our goal every day on Inside Sources is to help you divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense in your world. We have conversations with great thinkers, with great leaders, and great people who are just out there making a difference in the world. Now, we do talk about politics, but only so we can discuss society and culture. And then we explore society and culture so we can discuss principles and the people in America and the state of Utah who actually live them and apply them every day. We bring the best and brightest minds to the state of Utah, and we love to take the Utah model and send it out to our nation's capital and beyond. Every day on Inside Sources, you'll be part of that conversation. To help you understand things in a different way, we'll get you to think again about what you think you know, but most important, we're going to help you have confidence to have crucial conversations in your community and in your own home.
Join Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
We've got another crash on I-80 westbound, right where it merges onto SR-36 out in Tooele County. On top of that, you've got another snow squall going through the area, creating some very slick road conditions. So things are slow heading eastbound as well from SR-36 onto I-80. No problems, though, right now in the Salt Lake Valley. I-15 running smoothly, but roads are still very wet in Utah County, especially SR-73 coming out of Eagle Mountain where it is snow-covered. Zero Res, get one room cleaned starting at just $25 with a 4-room minimum and 25% off all other services. Use promo code CLEANWEEK. Zero Res. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
48 degrees will be the high today and tomorrow with scattered rain and snow both days. Right now it's 39 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Well, the clock seems to be ticking in New York for former President Trump. Not sure he's going to be able to come up with the near $500 million he has to come up with today to satisfy that judgment. Ooh, it's a lot of money. But I thought from all the bragging he's done over the last, quarter century or so, that he definitely would have had that amount of cash in the bank.
Yeah, and another billionaire, Mark Cuban, explains why he might have it, he might be worth that, but he doesn't have it in hand. It's 9:06. It's time for the launch.
Sequence engaged.
And here are 3 things Debbie wants you to know.
Countdown. 3.
Divorce on the decline. Maybe people are making it work because, they see their single adult friends struggling to find a decent match out there in the wild, wild west of dating. But we're going to get serious about this in the 11 o'clock hour and ask marriage and divorce attorney, it's probably more divorce attorney than a marriage attorney, Todd Weiler. He's also a senator here in the state of Utah. What he sees in his own practice and what issue he sees as an absolute reason for divorce.
Divorce is a touchy subject, right? It's impacted so many people. I remember my mom tells me this story. When she was married, on their wedding day, my dad turned to my mom because he had gone through a pretty ugly divorce when he was growing up, and he said, "Don't ever ask for a divorce. I'll never give you one." And she's like, that's something you say to your bride on your wedding day. But I think it's an important conversation to have about divorce and why divorce rates are dropping over the last decade.
Countdown. 2.
Heard some really sad news over the weekend. KSL 5 Television doing some reporting on a mother of 5 who was dead. Electric scooter she'd been rented in Salt Lake City hit it's a buckled sidewalk, but this sidewalk, I saw the video on KSL 5. It was an absolute, like a mess, and it happened on Thursday night. And I've always felt like riding scooters in downtown Salt Lake with construction, you got potholes, you're supposed to ride on the road. Sometimes you can't ride on the road. And these sidewalks that are uprooted, plus you got the cars zipping by. I just feel like it's not my thing. It's just dangerous. And her family is now speaking out about this.
We just got the news that she had very extensive brain damage done, that she hit her temporal side, and that she didn't have a lot of time.
It was a heartbreaking story, but Debbie, things are changing with the electric scooters, with the electric bikes. They're moving faster than we're used to. We've grown up with bikes and scooters, but they're propelled by us and our own strength. So it's just not the speed and the acceleration of these electric vehicles, and they become very, very dangerous if you see a pothole or if you have a change in elevation or a curb. It can be tragic.
Launch countdown 1.
Midlife crisis 2.0. Maserati? Nah. 20-something-year-old girlfriend? Nah. It's a 44 is the new 24 when it comes to buying your first home. 44 years old. That is now the average in the United States of America. Houses are just so expensive across the country that the new age for buying your first home is when you hit midlife.
So how much is a starter home? Well, let me tell you what the state of Utah thinks a starter home should cost. It's $350,000.
The fact that we're talking about $350,000 starter homes, it just blows your mind. And now we're talking about $300,000 plus for our first home.
Dave and Dujanovic.
The Launch. Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
This is not only a local story, this is a nationwide story. It is a problem across the country. However, there are a few standouts where you can get a home for half price. We're going to talk about those areas in about 10 minutes. But I want to start with this new number we're seeing for the first time. I think this was the biggest shock of this story that I read in the Deseret News, Dave, and that is that 44 years old is now the average age of home buyers. And you compare that to, the 1980s, where the age was 25 to 34 years old. So
at least a decade, maybe 2 decades later than it was back in the 80s. Now, if you talk to folks back in the 80s, your home was $50,000. It was $100,000.
What's your reaction, though, to the fact that you're just a few years older than 44 years old? Could you imagine waiting now until you're 44 years old to buy your first home?
Exactly. Because I was right in that 25, I think I was 25 or 26 when I purchased my home. To think that I would just be buying my first home now, or that my kids are still 20 years out to buying their first home. It is sad. But I also wonder, is it because we value other things more than home buying?
No.
I sacrificed everything to get into a home.
Sure, that's a great way to make an excuse for out of control housing prices. But let's look at why this is happening. You cannot afford. You're literally squeezed out of buying your first home because you're not making enough income in your early years of your career. You're just, and if you don't get married and you don't have a significant other to help you shoulder the financial burden now of buying your first home, well, you just can't even afford to qualify for one. So listen to this. The median income in the United States between 2000 and 2023, so over the course of almost 25 years, the median increase goes up median income increases by about 64%. Okay, so now I'm making about almost $70,000 a year. But the median home price skyrockets by 240%. So the math ain't mathin', Dave. It's not because people are spending money on something else. It's because you can't afford to spend money on anything else but a house if you want to get into a house. And you're not making that kind of money in your early 20s or your mid-20s or your early 30s. You're not making that kind of money until you're well into your 40s.
This is unique to Utah because we've had very affordable housing for a long time. But if you look at some of the other states that are near us, California has had this problem going back 20 years, right? It's just that Utah has become a very, very hot market, especially in the last 5 years.
It is so hot that it is now in the top 3 of least affordable states to buy a home. So you got Hawaii, then you've got California, and then you've got Utah. I mean, what a sad situation that we found ourselves in. You cannot afford to buy a home in the state of Utah. So I want to take you around the country. Let's fly around the country where you can find out where you can get a home for half price. Literally half the cost of what you would pay here if you decide to buy a home in Utah.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Wherever you find yourself on the road of life.
The freeway blocked because of the jackknife truck trailer.
It's better with guidance from the KSL traffic team.
It looks like traffic there is starting to move again.
Time your commute with traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, mornings and afternoons.
On KSL News Radio.
Are you stressing about your IRS tax problems? Have you received notices from the IRS threatening to garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, or seize your property? You need an ally. Allies Tax Relief has tax attorneys and enrolled agents that are ready to fight for you. They have saved millions for taxpayers just like you. Allies Tax Relief can help put a stop to IRS collections and, most importantly, negotiate your tax debt. Here's Brenda, a happy client of Allies Tax Relief.
I owed the IRS around $57,000, and they're about to start garnishing my paychecks. I heard a commercial on the radio about Allies Tax Relief, so I thought I'd give them a call. After a day, they were able to at least stop the garnishments, and after a few months of negotiations, I walked away owing the IRS only $301.
If you owe the IRS, call Allies Tax Relief right now for your free consultation. Call 800-230-5174. 800-230-5174. That's 800-230-5174.
Hi friends, Dan the Laptop Man here from PC Laptops. I get a lot of emails with feedback from customers. Here's one. Dear Dan, I just had the best experience ever. I bought a computer from Shane at your State Street store. I asked several what I thought were really stupid questions. Shane was super courteous and made me feel comfortable through the whole process. People need to understand how important it is to support a local company, especially when your experience is so good. PC Laptops really does love me. Signed, Satisfied. I love hearing feedback like that. It really just gives me the chills. It's the whole reason why I got into the computer business in the first place. You can get a brand new PC Laptops desktop, and they start at only $29 a month. And it comes with a lifetime warranty. That means if anything goes wrong, we're going to take care of you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. That's PCLaptops.com. At PC Laptops, we really do love you.
If there's a problem during your siding, gutter, or window installation project, most contractors will try to hide it, ignore it, or blame someone else. It's called passing the buck, or turning a blind eye, or my favorite, finger pointing. My question is, where is the accountability? Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and look, sometimes problems just happen, no matter who you hire. Maybe the wrong color siding gets delivered, despite the order being placed perfectly, or maybe a downspout gets cut short. Honestly, it could be anything. At RGS Exteriors, mistakes are rare, but if something goes wrong, I can absolutely, positively, 100% guarantee you we'll never hide it, and we'll never pass the buck. We'll make certain everything turns out right for you. That's people over profits. That's the RGS Exteriors way. For a free estimate on siding, gutters, or windows, call 801-280-3110, rgsexteriors.com, rgsexteriors.com.
I absolutely love and live by my KSL News Radio app. It's on my phone, it's on my iPad, and I listen to our live shows every single day right on my KSL News Radio app. Listened again this morning to Tim and Amanda.
Yeah, it's an easy way to do it. It is different from the KSL app that you probably already have on your phone. This is specifically designed for KSL News Radio. So make sure you tune into the Dave Dujanovic Show live, or, of course, the radio, Alexa. It all works.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Amanda Dixon. First, a family is calling on Salt Lake City to fix their sidewalks after a mother of 5 died after crashing an electric scooter and hitting her head. Second, the storms over the weekend dumped over 2 feet of snow at some of our ski resorts, and more snow is on the way. Third, part of the U.S. will see a total solar eclipse next month, and a report says a lot of Utahns will be hitting the road to see it. Right now, it's 39 degrees in Salt Lake. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
Utah's so expensive to buy a home, especially when compared to the median income, that we're going to fly around the country in just a moment to find out where you can get a home for half the cost of what it would cost you to buy a home here in Utah.
In part, why this is such a crucial conversation is because the state of Utah is trying to figure out what can we do about this, because it's unsustainable. We can't be one of the worst, most expensive places to buy a home in the nation. That can't be the case. In fact, when we talked to Governor Cox when he joined our show a couple months ago, he said, it's my first, second, third, fourth, fifth priority. He's like, this is my number one priority is housing costs in Utah.
Let's dive specifically into that angle in about 15 minutes. For now, let's continue to go through what the Desert News is reporting in terms of unaffordable Utah, specifically in the housing market. So according to the D News, Dave, Utah is near the top of the country's most expensive real estate markets. Third highest in terms of home price to income ratio. So the median income in Utah, right around $63,000 or so, is maybe close to $64,000. The median home price is $533,000. So it goes Hawaii, California, and Utah, which is so ironic because so often I've heard you say and so many Utahns say, we don't want to be like California.
We are California.
You have arrived.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised at all that Hawaii and California are 1 and 2. The shocker is that we're number 3. Because I wouldn't in any way put us at the same level as Hawaii or California. Those are destination states. This is where we tourist. These are very obvious places. But Utah is the big surprise. So what in the world happened?
Well, Utah's also the newcomer. Because even when I was in high school, back in the 80s, we all knew that you can't afford to live in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And we also knew by the 90s you'll never be able to live in California. I remember going to San Diego back in the 80s and thinking I'll never be able to afford to live here. So it's long. It's the newcomer is Utah. We've always known that California and Hawaii are out of reach unless you make $1 million a year. But in Utah, you can't even afford to get into a home at $550,000 anymore on one income. You definitely have to have both partners in the relationship, in the marriage, working.
And
or whoever is the one. If there's a breadwinner, they better be making $150,000 a year or more. Otherwise, you're going to be house poor for 30 years.
Kim C. Gardner has done some incredible research on this. They've looked and said, how much do you need to be making a year to be able to afford a home? It's $130,000 to $150,000, exactly what you said. So, sure, if you are one person making $150,000, fine, you can own a home, you can buy a home. But in Utah, the average couple, you brought up the $60,000, that's one person, but the average couple in Utah is only making $85,000 between the two of them. So that still comes up $50,000 to $70,000 short annual income to buy a home.
And it also goes back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, right off the top of the show, and that is that the average, age right now, buying your first home is 44 years old. It explains
That's
a lot.
crazy, yeah.
You're more at an income advantage in your mid 40s than you're going to be most likely in your 20s and your 30s, and so you're building momentum to be able to afford a home. And unfortunately, it's like you're grasping at ropes of sand, because every time you save a little bit of money to get into your first home, the price goes up. It just skyrockets.
And remember, if we're getting into a first home, you don't have a huge amount of equity that you're rolling over or turning over. You've got to come up with closing costs, a down payment, and even if you get a good conventional loan, you're still coming up with 3 or 4% down payment. Well, on a $500,000 home, that's $15,000.
So where can you afford to live? Like, where can you go around the nation and get a half-price home, which would require you to move out of the state, because it's not going to happen in Utah. I'm sure we could find some place in, some remote areas of Utah where you could get a home for $350,000 or $400,000. But if you want a home that is, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, a newer home, you're going to have to move out of the state. So the G-News took a look at this, and let's fly around the country right now. Can I interest you in a home in North Dakota? Because North Dakota, it turns out, is one of the most affordable places to live. And Utah should actually kind of be embarrassed about this, I think. The average income per capita in North Dakota is $73,000, which is $10,000 more a year than it is in Utah. So I think Utah should be embarrassed about that. And homes are half the price in North Dakota. The median home value in North Dakota is $262,000. So while you laugh at that, that's where your kids will be able to afford a place.
North Dakota, and this is one of the tough parts about comparing California with Utah to North Dakota, because we're drastically different states. California has 40 million people living there. Mm-hmm. Utah has 3 million. Mm-hmm. North Dakota has 700,000.
Well, maybe somebody likes that, though.
Yeah.
They don't want to be crowded. I mean,
it's just completely different,
But
economics.
I moved here to Utah in 1990, and you could drive down I-15 without getting in a traffic jam or a car accident, every exit. It seems like we're always, it's just so crowded. You can't turn left out of a parking lot anymore here. So maybe somebody likes that. So that's North Dakota. Iowa, second most affordable housing option. Median home price in Iowa is $2.25. So, and also, by the way, Iowa's median income rivals that of Utah's at $62,000 a year. So right there, we're just seeing a huge problem with Utah with the income levels compared to the housing prices. You got a $550,000 home in Utah. You can't afford to buy that if the median income is $63,000. So Iowa is the second most affordable place. I looked at Ohio too. Columbus is, I haven't been to Ohio in a number of years, but Columbus is supposed to be kind of a cool city. I don't know, maybe y'all have lived there and you'll be like, oh, I'd never move back. Stay away from Columbus. But Columbus, Ohio, a 2-bathroom, 3-bed house is $245,000.
Now imagine if you saw a single-family dwelling for $245,000, you couldn't purchase it quick enough. I mean, you'd have a bidding war. They'd got it back up to $350,000 or $400,000.
There are a lot of Utah residents right now that are sitting on that much equity in their homes or more.
Oh yeah,
and they could sell that house and pay cash in another state, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Indiana, the flyover states, the ones you get in a plane and you look down and you're like, oh, is that a cornfield down there? The flyover states. But you could afford to pay cash and be financially free.
And if you're in a situation where you can do some remote working, maybe you're ready to downsize and you retire, it's kind of a slam dunk, isn't it, to do that very thing, to cash out. But another problem with this is you may run into some sort of capital gains issue. if you are downsizing homes, if you're talking about a first home.
You mean with your taxes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we've made it pretty punitive when we sell a home, and if we don't roll it over, then we can get hit with some
you get
huge
$500,000 if you're married out of a home without
only
paying any capital
$250 though
gains.
if you're single.
So what? I mean, so what? You're saving.
There's tax implications. I'm saying you should absolutely take into.
I agree, but I'm just looking at this and saying it's half the price. It's half the price in other states to buy a house. So what happens to our kids?
Well, it's all about where you want to live.
They're permanent renters.
Yeah. Well, where do you want to live, though?
Or they're going to the bank of mom and dad and asking mom and dad to give them a loan or a gift.
That bank is closed. Don't even bother.
Well,
Don't even knock on the door.
But maybe in your house, but in a lot of other homes, people are opening the door for that because they want their kids to have home ownership and they'd like for them to live within 600 miles. If you move to the middle of the country, you're flying out there in winters, and then they're raising your grandkids out there. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that go on with people leaving the state that is just, it's kind of sad for families. And so I think maybe in your house the door is closed, but in other homes I think they are opening the door. I know, I just don't know how young adults can afford to get into a house, or they're permanent renters until they're age 40.
So what are the solutions? That's what I think we need to be looking at is, okay, I don't disagree with your assessment. It is unaffordable. We can't be waiting till we're 44 years old to be buying our first home. So what are the solutions? The state of Utah is doing something about it.
The governor has a big plan. He talked to us about it not too long ago to build 35,000 new starter homes in the next 4 years. That is a heavy lift. Starter homes, $350,000? Sure would make buying your first home much more affordable.
Why did we stop building starter homes? We're building everything else. We're building huge homes. We're building big apartment complexes, but we are not building 1,300 to 1,500 square foot homes, detached, single family, owner occupied housing.
Can we get there? Next.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, Snow Basin, Deer Valley, and Park City ski resorts have announced an extended season, now closing in the third week of April. Ski Utah spokeswoman Allison Palmatier hit the slopes and tells us the spring skiing is great right now.
Typical, iconic Utah spring skiing, and it's great. And we're really excited that they're staying open so late.
Several Wasatch Front resorts picked up a foot of snow or more over the weekend. The weekend storms added a lot more snow to the mountains. The KSL Weather Center says some of the top weekend totals include Alta, which reported 30 new inches in 48 hours. Snowbird had 26, Brighton 22, Solitude had 20. In the valleys, Brigham City, Red Butte, and Draper reported over an inch of rain, with Holiday, Alpine, Hill Air Force Base, and Woods Cross with just under an inch. One person is in critical condition after a house fire in Syracuse. The fire department says the fire caused an estimated $400,000 in damage. They are still investigating the cause of that fire. Your money at this moment, the Dow right now is off 126. That's about 0.3%. We're at 39,347. Coming up, more cloudy skies. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
So I've been working with Salt Lake City Fat Loss to, lose a little fat, and it has been fantastic. I've just finished 60 days. So it was 2 months of losing weight, and the promise was that you could lose up to a pound of fat every day, and I thought, that would be unbelievable. It also sounds overly optimistic, and that's exactly where I was. I mean, close enough. We're going to round it. I lost 57 pounds in 60 days. Now, obviously, results vary for everybody, but many clients will lose 20, 30 pounds in a month or two, and I've really thought, man, this is something that I can do for the long term. I've learned some skills that will help me keep the weight off. I've done it without surgery, injections, point counting, exercising, and no prepackaged meals. So if you're interested, check out Salt Lake City Fat Loss. The website's super easy, slcfatloss.com, slcfatloss.com. You'll get that free consultation.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
You love the feel behind the wheel.
You'll love the new 2024 Acura MDX from Jody Wilkinson Acura. During the Spring into Performance event, Acura is offering 1.9% APR. Lease the 2024 MDX only $589 monthly. For offer details, text the word Acura to 57500.
Jody Wilkinson.
Downtown.
Acura.
1111 South Main. You'll love the new 2024 Acura RDX from Jody Wilkinson Acura. During the Spring into Performance event, Acura is offering 1.9% APR. Lease the 2024 RDX Super Handling All-Wheel Drive only $459 monthly. For offer details, text the word Acura to 57500.
Jody Wilkinson.
Downtown.
Acura.
1111 South Main.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
Well, emergency crews are still trying to clean up a crash on westbound I-80 right near SR 36. It has been moved over to the right shoulder, but there's a very heavy snow squall moving across that area right now, greatly reducing visibility and making roads slushy. So traffic's still very slow as you try to get onto SR 36. And then if you're southbound I-15 in the Salt Lake Valley, roads are completely dry, but we do have a crash just before the 90th South exit in Sandy. The right lane and shoulder there are blocked, causing slowdowns. Revere Health encourages you to schedule your preventative care and annual checkups to help increase the potential to live your most healthy and active life. Revere Health, your partner in health, your partner in life. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
48 degrees will be the high today and tomorrow as we see scattered rain and snow showers continuing. On Wednesday, should clear out a little bit with a high of 55 up to 60 on Thursday. Right now, it's 39 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. Priced Out, housing, special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
I do know that the governor says he's lost sleep over this. It keeps him awake at night because Utah has become so unaffordable for people to buy a home, buy a first home, that they're trying to find some fixes to it. So Dave and I are going to take a look right now at what the state is doing about it.
The fix is to build. I think that's not a surprise to anybody. Everyone knows the way you bring prices down is you just got to increase the supply. But the deeper question is, why aren't developers building these starter homes? And that's what the state of Utah is trying to figure out.
Like incentivize them to start building, right?
Because they've stopped.
The governor wants to build 35,000 starter homes by the year 2028. That's a heavy lift. That's a lot of houses. But here's if I were in his shoes, here's what I would be worried about. I'd be worried about this text that we just got from somebody who says their adult daughter bought a 1-acre piece of property in Georgia and has a home on it for the total price is $300,000. it's going to become so unaffordable. There's going to be an exodus to buy houses in other states, and people who are looking to move to Utah are going to look here and think, well, I could get a home for half price in another state, and it's great because I work remote. So I don't have to worry about being in an office. So I think if you look at that as a leader in the state, you've got to be thinking that people are going to have to go elsewhere in order to buy a house. They're just going to make that choice.
There's definitely that threat, and I think we definitely need to address it. But sometimes we're not comparing apples to oranges, or in this case, to Georgia peaches, because I have no idea where that place is located. I could probably get an acre and a home in Manti for $300,000, right? It kind of depends on where this is building. We are very limited here in Utah because we have mountains on the east and we have a big lake on the west, so we really are funneled down to the north-south along I-15, where we're going to build the majority of our homes.
So Steve Waltrip is the senior advisor for housing strategy and innovation for the governor's office, and he joined KSL at night with solutions. Found this on the KSL's podcast, so you can listen to it there in its entirety, but we broke it down this morning as well. So, and he said solution number one is no more NIMBY. Not in my backyard, which happens a lot when they talk about building multi-family housing units. And he's like, we got to get rid of the NIMBY attitude.
The problem is in our collective backyard. It's not to be solved in someone else's backyard. We can't send our kids there or there. We have to have them here. Each neighborhood, each community has to absorb some of this growth. And growth is painful sometimes, but it doesn't have to be bad.
We had this experience in Kaysville. Now, Kaysville is largely built out, but just west of the Davis Golf Course, there was a bunch of pasture land, farmland that was being, relatively unused. And there was this huge development, tons of townhomes, apartments that were being proposed. They wanted to build. We threw up the biggest fight, Debbie. No, we don't want that overcrowding. Not in my backyard. We were classic Kaysville NIMBY. They built it anyway. They pushed it through. There's been zero impact, Debbie. Zero impact. I have not felt an ounce of problem when it comes to like traffic, all the things everyone panics over. I haven't felt overwhelmed.
Were you ashamed that everybody had thrown up such a fight?
Because listen, we all feel this way. We're not alone. Everyone's like, I love high-density housing as long as it's not in my house.
The Kaysville, as I like to call it, K-Town NIMBYism, and transplant it to Harriman.
Yeah.
You could transplant it to Draper. You could put that in Cottonwood Heights. That happened in Cottonwood Heights when I was living there about a new townhome development. I think it's kind of the same deal. I've since moved from there, but they look good and they don't create a lot of havoc for the community. And it's just like you don't even really remember that there was this fight over it. But when you're involved in NIMBY, you have to recognize too, and I think we fail to do that. It's not just about you, it's about your kids. It's about the next generation of kids growing into their 20s and 30s and being able to find a place to live if they want to stay in Utah. And we've had so much of this NIMBY attitude for so long because I get it. We want to keep our we want to keep it quaint and small. Well, that toothpaste is out of the tube, and it has been for a lot of years. So the other goal for the state is to build more affordable starter homes. So just got to hold on to your wallet for this one. The goal is $350,000.
The fact that we're talking about $350,000 starter homes, it just blows your mind. And now we're talking about $300,000 plus for first home.
And that's a big number, especially for many of us that bought a decade or 2 decades ago, and it was half price. Or a third of the price. $350,000 doesn't feel affordable. If you're this is your first home, and you've got to come up with 3% down or 5% down, and then you've got to come up with closing costs. You're talking tens of thousands of dollars, and then after that, then you've got a $2,500 a month mortgage payment.
We've conditioned Utahns to feel like $350,000 is a bargain.
It's a bargain, yeah.
Because the median home price, this is what we're talking about, the median home price right now is $533,000, and incomes in Utah right around $63,000 for the median income just cannot keep pace. So we're diving in right now to solutions. And Steve Waldrop is a senior advisor for housing strategy and innovation, and he joined KSL at Night last week to talk about what lawmakers are doing, what the governor's office is doing. And one of the things the legislature did was set aside about $300 million to help get home builders to start building starter homes.
Well, the legislature did some really, really good things in this last legislative session. They did what I think is the biggest thing, which was create the Public Treasures Investment Fund, liquidity fund, to allow for home builders to access capital that they're having a real hard time getting now because of the financial crisis, the banking crisis that we're also in the middle of. So our home builders are having a hard time getting capital. This frees up capital, but they have to build homes targeted to a certain price or below. They can't just build whatever they want. They've got to build homes that in the county that they're building are considered attainable homes, and the target is $350,000 or less. So the legislature did some really, really good things. The $300 million Public Treasures Fund, that fund should have a direct impact on what is produced in Utah, and we see that as a very, very strong first step in creating more of the type of houses that we need.
And that's something I hadn't really thought about, is the developer side of things. We're complaining about a 6-7% interest rate on our home of $350,000. The developers are spending millions of dollars on these developments at 7% interest, 6-7% interest. So what the state has done is they've set aside this $300 million, a much more affordable interest rate, which would incentivize builders to build these other homes. That's crucial. Are we competing with banks? Yeah, kind of. But this definitely incentivizes developers by saying, hey, if you want to need some capital, you want to do some infrastructure, you have to build these affordable homes.
Next, it's a really tragic story. It happened late last week. A mother of 5 dead. The electric scooter she was riding hit a lifted sidewalk. This sidewalk was a mess. I saw the video of KSL 5 TV. I just have to ask the question straight ahead. Is it unsafe to even be riding a scooter with construction, potholes, and sidewalks and cars zipping by? We're going to hear from her family next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Current events can have a lot of moving parts. Our job is to make it easy to keep up.
You're part of a bigger world, so spend 15 or 20 minutes here and be part of it.
Join us weekday mornings between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Sign up for KSL text alerts and you could win cash. Text the word cash to 57500 for a chance to win $250. That's cash to 57500. Plus, you'll get breaking news and traffic updates right to your phone. Want to win more prizes? Text contest to 57500. Jazz fans, text the word jazz for breaking Utah Jazz news. And Cougar fans, text BYU to 57500 for the latest on the Cougars. Message and data rates may apply. For an alternate entry method and complete contest rules, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
Well, hello, it's me again. And like me, I'll bet you're ready for spring and a little green lawn again. I've got a tip. Don't spend a fortune hiring a lawn care company. Save some money and do it yourself. And here's how. Go to J&J Garden Center in Layton and purchase their simple, color-coded 5-step fertilizer system that covers up to 10,000 square feet and will rejuvenate your lawn for just $199.98. And nobody beats J&J's price. So for a lush, healthy green lawn, come and try J&J Garden Center's 5-step fertilizer system. I promise you won't regret it. Take the Layton Parkway exit, Main Street to Gentile, then west 2 miles. You've got to see it to believe it. You really do.
Country grown to your home, J&J Garden Center.
Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. Listen, we're fiduciaries. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. Now, imagine how that would be if you could actually retire 3 to 5 years sooner than your plan was. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan, taking into consideration any rental properties that you have, any pension income that you have, your Social Security. Listen, we put that all together for you in writing. It will allow us to build your income based on inflation. You know, inflation has been rapidly rising. You and I both need a plan that whatever we start out our income at, in 5 or 10 years, we're going to need 40% more income. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
I love using my KSL News Radio app. I use it religiously every single morning to listen to Tim and Amanda and Utah's Morning News. That's right. You can actually listen to the shows live right on your smartphone. It's awesome.
And breaking news, push notifications, all that comes through the app. All you have to do is download it. It's very easy, obviously free. Listen live, push notifications, like I said. Every day for David Dujanovic, you can listen to it live on the KSL News Radio app.
Monster winds can cause huge damage to your roof that you can't see. Don't wait for a disaster. Go to the Masters at masterroofingutah.com to schedule your free windstorm assessment today.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Amanda Dixon. First, yesterday's burst of winter weather caused well over 100 car crashes in just one day. Second, one person is in critical condition after a house fire in Syracuse. The fire department says the fire caused an estimated $400,000 in damage. Third, police in St. George are saying several people were hospitalized after an elderly man crashed his car in a Walmart parking lot and flipped his car. Right now it's 39 degrees in Salt Lake. Back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
David Dujanovic.
Such a sad story that KSL 5 television is reporting about. The mother of 5. They had a picture of her, their kids on their website. Just so heartbreaking. Well, she was killed on Thursday night. She was riding an e-scooter near the downtown area, West Temple, between 4th and 5th South. I guess that is pretty much downtown. And she just hit something on the sidewalk. And did you see that sidewalk, Dave?
Yes. Oh, it was. I'm trying to figure out, none of the cones or anything was there.
This is
when she was in it.
I'm sure the investigation is underway, but that sidewalk just was
completely buckled.
It was buckled, but it's just, you say buckled, and I thought, oh, how bad was it? And I looked at the video. I'm like, it's disaster.
8, 10 inches, 12 inches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a foot raise. Like, you will see the top and the bottom of the concrete just completely sticking out. I don't know what caused it. There's trees. Obviously, the tree, we've probably all experienced this. And just the worst case, so tragic. Now, I think the larger conversation here is, what are we doing about e-scooters, e-bikes? Because they are game changers. They are truly changing the way that we travel, because it's fast, it's fun, it's all these things, but we haven't taken the proper precautions, I don't think.
I want to play about a minute or so clip from Shelby Lofton's story on KSL 5 television to set the scene about what happened to Ashley Peck on Thursday night. And she was riding an e-scooter in downtown Salt Lake City at about between 4th and 5th South and West Temple. Let's get with Shelby to find out what she knows about this.
Family of Ashley Peck told me that she was riding her e-scooter with her boyfriend and her cousin late Thursday night. They said she drove over a buckle in the sidewalk just beyond the barricade behind me, went flying 10 to 15 feet in the air, and they said she landed on the sidewalk and hit her head very hard. They told me that bystanders found her unconscious and called 911.
Ashley is just the life of a party.
33-year-old Ashley Peck's family says she was enjoying a night on the town.
They were about to head home, and it was pretty dark.
They say she was riding a Lime scooter behind her boyfriend and cousin when she ran into a buckle in the sidewalk and hit her head hard.
We just got the news that she had very extensive brain damage done, that she hit her temporal side, and that she didn't have a lot of time.
The mother of 5 was declared brain dead.
She was like the best mother to her kids. They're all that's all they had is just her.
Do we know, Deb, I didn't see this in Shelby's reporting, if she was wearing a helmet?
Don't know.
Because that's one of the things you and I we've done this.
I haven't done the scooters.
Didn't we do the scooters?
No.
I thought we did it together.
I didn't do it with you.
Oh.
No, I won't do them. I won't do them. First of all, if you're going to ride those rental scooters downtown, it's not like there's a helmet hanging off the side of them.
Right. Yeah.
And you have to bring your own helmet. Well, that's not convenient.
It does say on the app that you should wear a helmet.
Well, okay, because
but your point,
probably for liability, they put that there. But you can't. Nobody. If you're just leaving Broadcast House to go jump on one of these scooters to ride it over to Cheesecake Factory near City Creek, you're not toting a helmet with you.
I rode it and I didn't have a helmet.
How did you feel on it?
Great. I loved it. It was a ton of fun. It was an easy way to travel around. I didn't have to get an Uber. I could just jump on these e-scooters. But there's a few things it does say. It says, wear a helmet, don't ride on the sidewalk. Those are 2 warnings it has before you even jump on.
Well, and Shelby Lofton for KSL5 TV reports that city ordinances state everyone on e-scooters or e-bikes must ride in the bicycle or travel lanes. Riding on sidewalks is not allowed, but Peck's family says that's often impossible. And I agree with them. It's often impossible to stay on or get off the sidewalks. Here's one of our family members talking about that.
And I've looked at the Lime website, and it says stay far to the right as traffic as you can. Sometimes you can't even get to the far right side of the traffic. You have to get onto the sidewalk.
So I think when you talk about legalities versus reality, you're talking 2 different things. You can have all of these rules in place, but when you get out there and ride one of these things, like I saw one the other day in my neighborhood. I was on a long walk when it was like the fake spring thing that we were having last week, 65 degrees and gorgeous. I was just on this really long walk out in my community in South Jordan, and I saw one of these rentable scooters tipped over in the grass, and you could see the grass. The grass is growing. I mean, it's like, I know we're in Fing right now. We're in fake spring, but the grass is growing. And so you couldn't quite see the whole thing. It was kind of just sticking up a little bit. And I almost tripped over that walking. So imagine you're on one of these things and the sidewalk's either closed and now you got to dart into the bicycle lane. And I see potholes all over this city and other cities.
Yeah, there's no guarantee the roads are any safer than the sidewalk.
Construction trucks have dumped gravel. And I remember being a kid, and I was a pretty good skateboarder, by the way. So I know it's shocking to you I don't jump on one of these e-scooters because I've got the backbone to do it. But it's just, to me, I'm like, there's so many, even like I would hit my skateboard on a pebble.
Yeah.
Go flying.
Yep.
So I'm not sure we're at a place where I would feel safe. You said we rode them together. I think you rode it with one of our producers.
Yeah. It was a D2 outing, and you got voted off the island.
Right.
I guess
I voted myself off the island. I'm like, look, I'll do a lot of things for KSL, and I have for 20 years, but I will not get myself at 55 years old on one of those scooters and pretend like I'm just Wonder Woman out there. So that's why I'm the pebbles, the potholes. I just don't feel like we are set up. It's kind of like the scooters came in after the fact. We haven't designed a city around using e-scooters.
We have bikes and a lot of scooters anyway that are not electric, and people ride them all the time. The difference maker here for me is with the e-bikes and the e-scooters is they travel and they move us so much more quickly than we're used to. The acceleration, the top end speed is far above what you can generate with your own body power. So if you're a great cyclist, you might be able to get to 25 miles an hour. Like if you are a top end, biker, you can maybe get up to 25 miles an hour. Well, there are e-bikes that will travel 35, 45 miles an hour. There are scooters out there, not these ones specifically, not these Lime ones. They're regulated, but they can travel 50, 55 miles an hour, Debbie. And we're not quite sure how to handle this with that kind of power. You know, with a motorcycle, you have to have a license, a specific license to run a motorcycle. But we're like, no, jump on one of these scooters that drives 50 miles an hour.
I wish there was a spot that you could rent a helmet. I do. I mean, we know that according to her family, Ashley Peck was killed because she hit her head when she flew off this thing after she hit a buckle in the sidewalk on Thursday night. It's dark out. I mean, I don't know what the situation was, what the lighting was out there. I don't know. But think about, I mean, these things are rentable at, it seems like most hours of the day and night.
Yeah.
So if you're going to rent out a Lime scooter and you're going to say, or whatever scooter it is, it doesn't matter what the brand is. If you're going to rent these things out, why don't we have lockers for helmets right there? Probably because of expense, but what price did she pay?
Yeah, there's no real place to do it.
Because you've got to, right.
I can drop it off anywhere.
You can drop it off anywhere. It's not like these rented bikes where you have to drop it off at a specific drop-off location, then stick it in the bike rack and make sure it's locked in. So city's going to have to sort through this, but it's unfortunate that this mom of 5 lost her life. It's probably started out as a fun night, just to go downtown and enjoy downtown like so many of us want to do. And then look what happened. She's now dead. So, so sad. So hearts go out to that family. It's just a few days until tax day. You got like 3 weeks. So we're going to look at the most overlooked tax breaks with our favorite Utah CPA. She's calling the show next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. We have breaking news. An appeals court in New York has ruled that former President Trump can post a lower bond to cover his civil fraud judgment as he appeals the penalty. Trump can now post a bond of $175 million. ABC News executive editorial producer John Santucci has been following that case.
The Attorney General has the right to appeal, but regardless, as one source just said to me, we got everything we wanted. They are very surprised by this ruling and very grateful for it.
The former president is in New York for another court hearing in the Stormy Daniels hush money case. One person's in critical condition after a house fire in Syracuse. Fire department says this caused about $400,000 in damage to the home. They're still investigating the cause. And our top national story, the interpreter for baseball superstar Shohei Ohtani is facing theft charges, accused of stealing money from his boss to pay gambling debts. But Ippei Mizuhara now saying Ohtani knew he was taking the money. Mizuhara denies, though, that he ever bet on baseball, though he admits betting on soccer, basketball, and football. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day, 120 points. The NASDAQ down 22 right now. And our KSL weather. Boy, we're getting socked with snow in places like Tooele County right now. KSL News Time, 10:01.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Heard the catchphrase that's sweeping the nation?
Jackson Hugh, yeah.
People are saying Jackson Hugh yeah to Jackson Hewitt because they love saving money on tax prep. Do you love saving money? Then switch to Jackson Hewitt today and pay less than last year. Thousands of people have already made the switch. Why haven't you? Stop waiting and start filing. You won't get a better deal or a better catchphrase. All together now.
Jackson Hugh, yeah!
Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
In the history of the world, nobody has ever said, yay, we need a new roof. But when things aren't quite right up there, don't wait. Call IWC Roofing, the highest rated roofing contractor in Utah. IWC has been in business since 1997, and they offer the best value pricing in Utah, along with the best warranty in the business. They're one of the few Owens Corning Platinum certified roofers in the entire state. They have their own installers, no subcontractors crawling around on your roof. And at IWC Roofing, they'll send you pictures from up on the roof to show that you're getting exactly what you paid for. In most cases, they'll re-roof your home in one day. They'll clean up and pressure wash your driveway. IWC roofs more homes than any other company in Utah, so they can offer you a better price, and right now, an extra $1,500 off your new roof. Call IWC Roofing for a no-pressure quote, 801-232-5690. Call 801-232-5690 or go to IWCRoofingUtah.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got another band of lake effect showers going across Tooele County right now. It's mostly affecting I-80 and SR-36 right around Lake Point, but it's coming down pretty fast and furious, making for some very wet and slick roads. If you're in the Salt Lake Valley, U-111 and Mountain View Corridor also completely covered with snow. I don't even see the roadway in many areas, and that's going to be between Harriman and 90th South in West Jordan, so those roadways are pretty slick as well. The rest of the drive is dry, especially on I-15 corridor. Zero Res, get one room clean starting at just $25 with a 4-room minimum and 25% off all other services. Use promo code CLEANWEEK, Zero Res. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Our KSL weather, more rain and snow showers today and tomorrow. Highs only in the 40s, and it'll be cloudy with a chance of showers through the rest of the week. Right now, 39 degrees in downtown Salt Lake. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. Right on the money. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
It's 21 days until tax day. Yikes. My taxes are done. I just have to write the check. Bummer. But before we get to April 15th, we want to get with our favorite CPA in all of Utah and talk about the most overlooked tax breaks so we can save you some extra money. And it's not all about that standard deduction. I think sometimes you just automatically assume, I'll just take the standard deduction and that's good enough. But you might be missing some tax breaks.
This is the latest I've ever done my taxes.
I know. That's why I rubbed it in earlier.
I do. I felt it. I felt the little twist of the knife there, Deb. But yeah, I usually get them done so quickly. I've just been a little lazy. Quite honestly, that's all it is. It's just lazy. Now, I've always taken the standard deduction, but my kids are growing up. They are leaving me. So now all of a sudden I've got to kind of reassess and start looking at tax breaks a little bit differently because it's not quite the slam dunk as it used to be.
So do your kids? They do too.
Yeah.
A couple of your kids are in school. There might be some deductions that they can take for their student loan interest if they have a student loan. If they don't, then that's not an issue. But there's also some rules around that, like if you're married or not. So I think there's some significant potential tax breaks that could be easily overlooked. Like, what about if your child is an adult in school? Can they deduct some of their supplies? Have to go out and buy a lot of school supplies. I know from having a daughter in college for a lot of years, sometimes that could be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Are those deductible? Let's go with Susan Spears. She's the CEO of the Utah Association of CPAs, our favorite CPA in Utah. Hello, Susan.
Hello, how are you today? I think you're hitting the button right on the nose.
I love when I hit the button on the nose.
I thought it was interesting that you brought up the student loan interest first thing. It's one of those overlooked things. For how many years now have our people had a break on not having to pay back student loans? And now that they're back in the picture, you can deduct student loan interest on the face of your return. It's a deduction. It's not an itemized deduction. It's a deduction from your gross income. So you can deduct that up to $2,500. So that's a pretty good little enhancement, I guess, or break for you as you file your tax returns.
Okay, Susan, that's a crucial little nugget, because I just assumed if you take the standardized deduction, that's it. That's the only deduction you get. But you're saying you can tack that on it. How does that work?
So it's part of the adjusted gross income calculation. So you're going to add up your wages, interest, dividends, all that kind of stuff. And then you can do some adjustments to the gross income, and student loan interest is one of them, up to $2,500. There are educator expenses, self-employed health insurance. If you have like a little Schedule C, your own business, and you're paying for your health insurance out of that, you can deduct that. So your IRA deduction. I think that we forget about some of these things because, to your point, we just think, I don't make a lot of money, I don't have enough to itemize, and we just default standard deduction, but we forget about some of these little things.
Is there anything else that stands out to you, Susan, as one of those, it seems like a little bit of money, but it really starts to add up? For example, I was reading a Kiplinger report earlier, and it says you can deduct your jury pay because some employers require employees to surrender their jury pay if they're getting paid by their employer at the same time they're serving on jury duty. And so Kiplinger reports this is like an overlooked deduction because if you're not getting supplemented by your employer while you're on jury duty, then you can deduct your or if you have to pay that back to your employer, you get to deduct it from your taxes. So I love that little tip. Not all of us are called to jury duty, but when we are, we want to make sure we're taking advantage of that as a tax deduction. Is there anything else that you're seeing on your radar that we miss?
There's another thing. Those that are drawing out of their retirement plans, at age 73 now, you have what's called the required minimum distribution. If you don't itemize, but you want to contribute, if you want to do a donation, let's say, but you don't make enough to itemize, as you could have that required minimum distribution go to a qualified charitable institution, charitable organization. So what that means is you will not report the RMD, but you also don't report the charitable donation. So they net each other out. So you're going to still get the 1099-R, if you will, for, let's say, $50,000, but it's going to indicate that you gave that to charity. So you're not going to report it as income. And you can do that up to $100,000. But let's say you don't, you're married filing joint and your distribution's $20,000, but you want to give it to charity, but you don't make enough to itemize, you won't report that at all. There's some good tax planning around these RMDs that I think we forget about.
What's an RMD again?
So that's the required minimum distribution.
Oh, it's an acronym for that. Okay.
It's an acronym, yeah. I'm in CPA speak.
Well, look at Susan. If I am 73 years old and I can take $100K out of my 401K and just give it to charity, that's some pretty clean living right there. I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to be in that level of a tax bracket to be able to afford to do that. But those who are, it's something worth considering.
Well, yeah, and I think even if you're in that lower bracket, but still want to do some charitable giving, but you don't reach that, you're not over that standard deduction threshold. There's an opportunity there. You're not going to pay income on the distribution because you gave it to a charitable organization, but you're still going to get the standard deduction. It's a little bit of a win-win.
It's good to know. Something we don't think about every day.
Especially crucial if you're hovering, above or around kind of that dividing line on tax brackets. Maybe a few $1,000s or $10,000 could make a difference in the rate that you pay.
Absolutely. It's kind of, this is the time right now we're filing our 2023 taxes. So we're probably wishing, I wish I would have done that in December. But start thinking about these things for the 2024 year, because we know that in 2025 there are going to be some changes. We just don't know what.
That's a great piece of advice, Susan. Thank you. Yeah, tax planning can't happen on January 15th. The year's already done. You've got to plan throughout the year, and that's a great piece of advice. Thank you, Susan Spear, CEO of Utah Association of CPAs.
Our eyes now focused on this messy situation going on Mountain View corridor. It is like the tale of two completely different cities. It is not snowing downtown the way it is on Mountain View corridor at 118 South. Traffic is sparse, moving very slowly. And Heather, that's a mess out there. What is going on? Heather Kelly in the traffic center for us.
Well, these are lake effect snow squalls that are moving across the west side of the Salt Lake Valley and also in a little bit of Tooele County as well. I-80 all morning long has just been a nightmare for people getting on from SR 36 onto I-80 in both directions there. But on Mountain View corridor, that is getting walloped right now. So if you are moving between about 145th South down in Harriman all the way up into West Jordan at 90th South, it is snow-covered, slushy, can barely see the lanes of travel. That is how fast the snow is coming down.
Heather Kelly, thank you for that update, because we're looking at a traffic camera right now, and it is exactly as you described it. Just everybody is moving at a snail's pace. You can barely see the lines. You can't even see the lines from my point of view. But yeah, very, very cautious driving right now.
Today's the deadline where former President Trump had to come up with almost $500 million to satisfy a judgment he lost in New York. And the former president just got some excellent news. We'll get into that next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Here's a trick to podcasting at work and getting all the Utah news you love.
Download the KSL News Radio app.
The podcast for Utah's morning news and Dave and Debbie are right there. Dozens of podcasts a day.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Everyone's house is different, but they're all the same in one way. We've all got those places where the Wi-Fi just won't go. For you, maybe it's the attic. For me, it's my basement. Well, if you had wall-to-wall Wi-Fi from Xfinity, you could worry less about the dead spots. Finally, with wall-to-wall Wi-Fi from Xfinity, you get fast speeds throughout your home, a reliable connection in every room, and power for all your devices, even when everyone's online. That's wall-to-wall Wi-Fi only on the Xfinity 10G network. Get wall-to-wall Wi-Fi from Xfinity for a reliable connection throughout your home. Now through June 21st, new customers can get started with gig speed internet for $25 a month for 2 years with no annual contract and free Wi-Fi equipment included when you add unlimited mobile. Get rid of those dead spots. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, that's 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. The last thing you want in the morning is more noise.
The day's just getting started. Maybe you're feeling a little anxious or overwhelmed, and it's not even 8 yet.
So catching up on important news stories, some sense of weather and traffic, it shouldn't be stressful.
Get a wrap on the day ahead from smart, inviting voices who know you're trying to ease in.
Do you love a rainy day?
I do, actually.
I do too.
Tim and Amanda, mornings from 5 to 9. They have you covered on KSL News Radio.
At JCW's, we think tipping might be getting a little out of hand. Like when you're asked to tip at the register before you've even been served, or when you're at the yogurt shop and find yourself serving yourself. And don't even get us started on frosted tips making a comeback. That's why at JCW's, when you pay for a 3rd-pound ranch bacon cheeseburger, that's what you pay. And no one at the register is going to stare longingly at you while you awkwardly maneuver through the tip screen for food you don't even have yet. Honestly, we're just happy to see you at any of our 5 locations in Provo, South Jordan, Lehigh, Harriman, and American Fork. So come on in and enjoy some quality time and great food with family and friends. And we promise, we won't be pushing you for a tip.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's, and we just want to say thank you, and especially to our loyal customers. We want you to know that at JCW's, your business is all the tip we need. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
3 days only. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Save thousands on hot tubs and swim spas. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas. Utah State Fair Park. Hot tubs discounted 40 to 80% to the lowest possible price, starting at $29.99. Free professional delivery. Take possession tomorrow, next week, next month, or next season. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Utah State Fair Park. Shop over a dozen models of swim spas from 11 feet to over 19 feet. Swim spas offer low-impact exercise, active family fun, unsurpassed relaxation, and installation in one day. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Everything must go. Free parking, free admission. You can't afford to miss this. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas.
Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Utah State Fair Park. Visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
If you've got a few minutes this afternoon, it won't take you long. Download the KSL News Radio app. You'll be glad you did. You'll get push notifications. You can get all of your shows live right at your fingertips and on your smartphone.
And it's a free app, of course. It's different from the KSL app that you probably already have on your phone. This is the KSL News Radio app, designed specifically for KSL News Radio.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, an appeals court in New York will allow former President Trump to post a much lower bond to appeal a $460 million civil judgment. Second, a woman has died after an accident on a rented scooter in Salt Lake City. And third, lake effect snow causing visibility and traffic problems in Tooele and in Salt Lake County right now. Right now, 39 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Former President Trump has 175 million reasons to be thankful this morning. That bond he was supposed to post by today in the neighborhood of $454 million, so almost $500 million, was reduced this morning.
So I greatly respect the decision of the appellate division, and I'll post either $175 million in cash or bonds or security or whatever is necessary very quickly within the 10 days.
And I think initially when this judgment was made, Debbie, this is something I just learned, is Letitia James, the Attorney General in New York, could have immediately started seizing assets or requiring the payment, but they gave him, the former President Trump, 30 days as a grace period. Well, that's where we're at. We're at the 30 days is up, and that's why this judgment is so crucial. So not only did he get the reduction from $454 million that you have to bond to $175, but he gained another 10 days. So he's got another 10 days to go out and find out if someone will secure that $175 million.
Let's just get a little bit more information on this from ABC News' Aaron Katursky, who's been following this case. Now, this is the one that has to do with the civil fraud case in New York, where the former president, was accused by the attorney general of making a lot of money in his real estate business through fraud, by inflating the value of his property so he could get better interest rates and get better insurance rates. And the judge in that case found him civilly liable, and that's where he got to the $454 million in a bond that was due today.
New York Attorney General Letitia James is prepared to begin seizing some of Donald Trump's most prized assets. Trump's lawyers calling obtaining a bond of such enormous magnitude a practical impossibility. Yet on Friday, Trump may have undercut that very argument when he claimed he does have the money. He just wants to spend it elsewhere. I currently have almost $500 million in cash, Trump wrote on social media, a substantial amount of which I intended to use in my campaign.
So now that's been reduced to $175 million. And the bond, the company now is not on the hook for nearly $500 million, just, a little under $200 million.
So I guess the question is, does he have the money or doesn't he have the money? He brags on social media just a couple of days ago that he does have the money. But his lawyers are snooping around, apparently, according to them, trying to get a bond company to put up that $454 million. And according to them, as of like a week ago, they couldn't find a company to do it. Well, I don't know why those companies wouldn't put it up. Either it's that they think he has the money to do it, or he has such a checkered past with finances that they don't trust that he's good for the money. So why would you, if you're a bond company, why would you put up the money? And we're going to find out more in just a minute from KSL News Radio legal analyst Greg Skordas how this bond companies work. But he brags about having the money, so just put up the money. And maybe now he'll put up his own cash because he's had that bond reduced by the appellate court to $175 million. So the guy's got such a checkered past. I can't blame these bond companies for not wanting to get in bed with him financially. I'd run from this guy.
It seems like easy money to me because he's not running. He's not going anywhere. He's not fleeing the country. This is Donald Trump we're talking about. So if they put up $465 million or $454 million, whatever it might be, typically the bond company would say, we'll secure that, but we're going to charge you, say, 10%. That's $45 million that Trump will never get back. Now, what he's counting on is that through his appeals process, that he's going to get that $454 million judgment drastically reduced. Well, he'll still be out the $45 million no matter what happens if he gets a bond company to secure
What
this.
if he declared bankruptcy?
Ooh, that's a good question.
See what I'm saying? And it wouldn't be a first. I was just reading up on this over the weekend because I got an alert to my phone. I'm like, oh, I want to read about this. 6 bankruptcies. This man has his businesses have declared bankruptcy 6 times. I know that a lot of Republicans hold him up as some sort of like boardroom genius, but this man is a walking financial disaster and has been since the 90s. His Atlantic City casinos in the 90s were hemorrhaging losses. I read one story that said he got in over his head $100 million on one purchase. He had an airline business for a time. He managed to run that thing into the ground. He got behind on his property taxes, not just a little bit. Like when you and I are behind, we're behind by a couple $1,000s. This man was behind $4.1 million in property taxes in the 90s, just in Manhattan alone. He had to go get loans from his family. He has, by 92, the Washington Post. This is an article from the Washington Post. In 1992, his debts exceeded the value of his properties. Banks took control of some of his properties. In 1991, his infamous Taj Mahal, I think it was a casino in Atlantic City, filed for bankruptcy. In 92, he's got 2 other Atlantic City casinos that go into bankruptcy. So he's just, why would you, as a bond surety company, if this guy comes to you and says, I don't care who it is, you're looking at the risk, and this guy's a huge risk. And one of the concerns was he would run to bankruptcy court today to get out of paying this $450 million judgment. We'll ask Greg Skordas, is that a way that he could have washed his hands of this and just not even had to satisfy that judgment? But, he's not afraid of bankruptcy court, Dave.
Yeah, and a lot of businessmen use every loophole that they can, whether it's bankruptcy or there's a million different ways to use bankruptcy court as well.
Or 6 different ways in his case.
In his case. But there's a lot of different things that you can do. Who's going to willingly put out $45 million unless they have to? What's so odd about this entire thing? And this is fundamentally, this isn't just me defending Trump. I have a problem with them requiring this kind of bond securing, this kind of judgment to be paid before the appeals process has gone through. That doesn't make any sense to me. He should be able to appeal it, exhaust his appeals before any money is demanded. It's like, we're going to execute you before all of your appeals go through. That makes no sense to me. He should absolutely, whatever the judgment is, you are entitled. It is your right. You are protected by law. You can appeal any of these judgments, which he is absolutely in the process of doing. But the appeals court hasn't listened to it. They haven't ruled on it, but they're requiring him to come up with this money right now. I have a problem with that.
Well, this is a civil trial. This is not a criminal trial, but I'm looking at criminal trials, and you brought up execution before you've exhausted all of your options. Well, a lot of criminals are serving behind bars. They're not allowed to just wander around free while their appeals exhaust themselves. And so, if a crook convicted criminal has to serve their time while their appeals are being exhausted, why would not a former president in a civil case have to put up the amount of money that the judge has decided is owed? Maybe they put it in a bank account, let it sit there in an escrow fund, let it grow some interest while he exhausts his appeals. So I don't know why he keeps getting all the breaks and other people in the justice system have to pay the piper.
It's $175 million. Well, I don't think that's a break.
He got it reduced.
Yeah.
He got lucky today because he couldn't, according to his attorneys, and by the way, you don't have to defend Trump, Dave. His attorneys couldn't even defend him. I mean, they lost a massive, massive judgment, not only against former President Trump, but also against two of his sons. They lost that case. And now they're going to try to appeal it and wind its way through the process. But what you're saying is he shouldn't have to put up a dime, and he should be allowed to appeal while his appeals are exhausted. He shouldn't have to fork any. I disagree with that. I mean, he's been found guilty and found liable for defrauding the people of New York. I mean, he rose up through fraud, according to this judgment.
And if an appeals court turns around and says, this was excessive, this was vindictive, this was wrong, he's still out $45 million. Like that's the very definition of overly punitive.
Even though he might not get a bond for this, he'd still be out $45 million. I guess I'm not understanding.
Well, I'm
math
saying
on that.
Whatever the bond is, what if he gets the $175 million bonded, he's still out whatever 10%. Well, he's never getting that $17 million back. If the appeals court comes in and says this was completely wrong and we reduce it to zero, he is still out $17 million.
But he shouldn't have to get a bond. He just bragged a couple of days ago on social media that he's got $500 million in cash, so he can pay the $175 million. They'll just put it in a little holding account, and if he wins, he gets it all back. Yay for him. But he
doesn't get the bond money back.
Will he have to bond, though? He can just put up the cash. He's rich, Dave. He's put it on social media. It's $500 million. He doesn't need a bond company now. He can take it out of his own bank account. But to your question, is he being treated fairly in this? We'll ask KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas. Is he or isn't he? Next.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, breaking news. Utah State University had an amazing run to the second round of the men's NCAA tournament, but now it looks as though they'll need a new head coach. KSLSports.com is following several reports saying Danny Sprinkle will take the head coaching job at Washington. The Huskies parted way with their head coach on March 8th. An appeals court in New York City has ruled that former President Donald Trump can post a lower bond now to cover his civil fraud judgment. Here's ABC's John Santucci.
We have been reporting that any moment the Attorney General could start seizing assets. Based on this ruling, if Team Trump moves quickly enough to secure the bond, they avoid that.
Instead of $464 million, the former president will now only have to post $175 million while the case continues. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day right now, 121 points. The NASDAQ is up 28. And our KSL weather depends on where you are. Lake effect hitting the west side of the Salt Lake Valley and Tooele Valley kind of hard right now. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
One of the things I've loved over the years, because we all throw money into our house, right? I mean, we upgrade, we invest in it, and one of my favorite investments has been my Kinetico water softener. When I had Kinetico install this probably 7 years ago, we were really struggling with dry skin in our family. Utah is, if you've lived here for any amount of time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We have some of the hardest water in the entire country. So Kinetico came out and showed us the difference that soft water will make. And the biggest selling point, the reason we decided to purchase a system was because they promised, they said, you know what, you're going to feel the difference from the very first time you take a shower or a bath. And that's exactly the case. We felt it on day one, and it has been a huge difference maker. We don't need to bathe in lotion every day. So if you're interested in soft water, give Kinetico of Utah a call, 801-576-8600. That's 801-576-8600, or check them out online at softwaterutah.com.
There are products that offer up to a 20% upfront bonus just for opening an account and up to 12% per year for retirement income. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I've heard from other advisors saying this is too good to be true. No, it's not. We are one of the few who can offer products like these because we're independent. We're not registered with a broker-dealer who tells us what we have to sell, and we don't have to answer to a board of directors who prioritize shareholders over clients. So, is an upfront bonus up to 20% and 12% per year growth for income too good to be true? For most advisors, yes, but not Trajan Wealth. The fact that many of our clients come from other financial advisors is a testament to our value. Experience the Trajan Wealth difference for yourself. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance.
Devotion to country, service to Utah. Brent Orrin Hatch had a front row seat, watching his father serve our state faithfully in the Senate. A constitutional conservative and lifelong Republican, Brent Orrin Hatch is a champion for the rule of law. He's running for Senate to stop this lawless president from destroying our country from within. Hatch will fight to secure the border once and for all, and take on Mexican drug cartels to halt the flow of deadly fentanyl. Brent Orrin Hatch knows the national debt is just as big a threat to national security. Hatch won't rest until the budget's balanced and won't cave to the big spenders in both parties. Pro-life, deeply committed to religious liberty, rock-solid Utah conservative. Brent Orrin Hatch for Senate. Paid for by Conservative Outsider PAC, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.copac.us.
Traffic and weather together now, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, these snow bands, lake effect snow bands, have moved into Utah County now, and it is affecting SR 73 once again. That is where we had huge delays earlier this morning for people coming out of Eagle Mountain trying to get toward Redwood Road and I-15, and that snow is starting to stick again there. You also have snow and rain falling over the point of the mountain between Utah and Salt Lake counties. That's slowing traffic down both directions. And the Mountain View corridor continues to get hammered. You've got snow sticking to the roadways between Harriman all the way into West Jordan, both directions. Zero Res, get one room cleaned starting at just $25 with a 4-room minimum and 25% off all other services. Use promo code CLEANWEEK. Zero Res. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
And our KSL weather, more rain and snow showers today and tomorrow with highs only in the 40s. It'll be cloudy with a chance of showers through the rest of the week. And right now, 41 degrees downtown. It's just mostly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Well, former President Trump must be breathing a sigh of relief. Just a little while ago, an appeals court said that they would reduce the bond that he's supposed to put up in one of his trials. There's many going on, but this one has to do with New York, where he was found liable for fraud, a significant amount of fraud in the way he was running his business and getting loans and getting, insurance to buy in and insure his properties. that bond has now been reduced to $175 million. It was set at $454 million, and he was owed by today, and he was scrambling.
Yeah. Like, how am I going to pay for this? Yeah. And the bond companies, they're not lining up to take care of this, though.
His attorneys did claim that they went to 30 different surety bond companies, and they all went, not interested.
Which is kind of interesting because the cost, the money they are making on that kind of a judgment, so $454 million, it's a 10% cost. If I put up the bond, I get 10% of that. That would have cost Trump $45 million that he never would have gotten back. He never would have gotten that back. That would have just been money handing over to the bond companies.
So the way I look at it is now he won't need a bond company because he just bragged the other day on social media that he's got $500 million in cash. So he can put the money up on his own. He can put that $175 million as a down payment for that, in that particular case, and they can let the appeals process
self-bond
play out.
It. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're not the only one that has thought that way. So California Representative Ted Lieu said this. He tweeted this out, or he posted it on X. He said, Trump claims he's a billionaire, but he can't pay a $464 million judgment. That means he is lying. How do I know? Math.
I love that.
So super, not a surprise. But it was interesting to me to see who came to his defense. And it was Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. He's like, Ted, I'm no supporter of Trump, but you are wrong on this topic. Net worth is completely different than cash in the bank. He says, so keeping cash in the bank, even money markets, that's dumb. He has it in, real estate. He has it in the stock market. He's got money all over the place. It's not liquid cash in his hands. He said that's not how any of us invest. None of us just hold on to huge stockpiles of cash. We invest them. And if you're asking a company, so these bonding companies, to loan against his commercial real estate, he's like, with the way the market is right now, no one is doing that ever. So Mark Cuban is coming to Trump's defense, which I did not see happening.
Chaos legal analyst Greg Skordas, good morning.
Good morning.
Do you think the court was being too harsh on the former president by demanding that $454 million now?
Not at all, although they've backed off of that, obviously,
yes.
and now requested a bond that's about a third of that. But what happened was, Debbie, as you guys know, is that he lost the case there in New York, and it was, as Dave indicated, a civil fraud trial based on him expanding and exaggerating his assets in order to get funds. And so in order to get bonding and insurance and loans and that type of thing. So, yeah, the judge ordered that he owes $450 million. He doesn't want to pay it because it's on appeal. But the judgment is still there. So when a judgment's outstanding and a case is on appeal, it doesn't mean that the individual doesn't still owe the money. So the judge will say, as they always do in civil cases, okay, if you don't want to pay this judgment and you still want to pursue your appeal, post a bond in the judgment amount so that if things do go south, we can collect the judgment amount from the bonding company. The bonding companies are all going, wait a minute. We're not willing to take a risk on this individual, even for the 10% that Dave said. Even if we can get $45 million, we're still on the hook for the whole 450. No way are we going to do that. Today was the drop dead day for him to post the bond. The judge relented and said, okay, you can't post 450. How about 185? And it looks like that's a number that Trump will be able to post. Probably not the cash that you guys talked about, just posting 185 million in cash. Chances are he will find a bonding company that will post that amount for him. It's not the judgment amount, but it's certainly a significant amount and probably enough to satisfy the court, at least for the time being.
So they were talking about moving forward. If this didn't get resolved today, that they could start seizing his assets. What does that exactly mean? I mean, is he getting evicted from Trump Tower? Are they shutting down his businesses while this plays out in the appeals courts?
It could be all of the above. So the New York Attorney General's office has a judgment against him, and they can seize assets within their jurisdiction, which includes Trump Tower. So they can say, look, you owe $450 million. Here's a building that we think is worth $450 million. We're going to seize it. We're going to evict you from it. We're going to sell it. And whatever money we get out of that, we're going to apply toward the judgment that you owe. So Trump doesn't want that to occur. He doesn't want any of his assets to be seized and forfeited to the government because he has to satisfy this debt, at least while he's appealing it. If he wins the appeal, maybe he doesn't owe anything or owes a lesser amount. If he loses, there may come a day, Dave, when he ultimately does have to pay it. And you're right, they may end up seizing Trump Tower, other things he owns in the state of New York, or they can transfer that judgment to other states. But if the judgment remains in some fashion, the state of New York is going to collect on his judgment. But it remains to be seen if he wins the appeal and can get out of paying that.
Greg Skordas, KSL legal analyst, on the line with us live right now. The courts just reduced, at least for now, $175 million is what former President Trump has to post for a surety bond in his New York civil case. Just a real quick question. I mean, this man is no stranger to bankruptcy court. At least his businesses have filed bankruptcy, as far as I could track, at least 6 times, Greg, over the years. So what if he ran to bankruptcy court on this issue? Could he do that? And then would that be that $450 million judgment be, basically washed away?
It could be, but this is a personal judgment. This is something against him personally. His bankruptcies have always been with respect to entities and businesses that he set up. He'll start a venture, it doesn't work, he'll bankrupt that particular venture. This is against him personally. So he can't, on the one hand, say, I'm a billionaire, and on the other hand, say, I'm bankrupt, I don't have any money at all, because once he's on the hook personally, they can seize everything that he has, including Trump Tower, including any interest he has in Trump Tower, his bank accounts, all kinds of things. So absolutely, if they can transfer the judgment to Florida, they can seize that as well. So this is personal. He can't get out of it by filing a bankruptcy, and if he does, then he's got to admit that he's worthless, that he's financially worthless. He's got no assets at all.
KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas, thank you.
Fascinating. We'll continue to track the developments. Of course, that's not the only case that he's dealing with. He's also in court on another issue today. But we'll continue to try to sort through them for you, bring you the ones that you need to know most about in the moment, and keep you updated on what he does with this $175 million bond that he's now able to post. Straight ahead, Instagram limiting political content being pushed into the algorithm. What does that mean? Does that mean we don't have to watch a bunch of politicians duke it out on Instagram? That's awesome. We're going to look into that next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
A lot of us are filling our workdays with podcasts.
When you're working, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
Click on Dave and Debbie's podcast and pick a topic and story length.
Podcast with Dave and Debbie. Then get to work with KSL News Radio.
Getting your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt can lead to some spirited reactions.
Jackson Hewitt!
Jackson Hewitt is so sure they'll get you your biggest refund that if they don't, you get your money back plus $100.
Jackson Hewitt!
Switch to Jackson Hewitt and we'll beat what you paid last year, even if you filed online. Ain't nothing to it. Switch to Jackson Hewitt and pay less for tax prep, guaranteed. Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
When the weather warms up, it's like a stampede, except instead of dust stirred up by hundreds of
hooves. It's a cascade of phone calls to Advanced Window Products. This is Jeff Kaplan. Soon as the sun shines and the snow's gone, people want new windows and frames from Utah's #1 custom window maker, and the wait for installation grows longer. But right now, you can get near the front of the line by calling for a quote and get $2,500 off when you purchase 10 windows or more. That's on top of the incredible savings for the highest quality double-pane windows and frames, any style, any color. See, at Advanced Window Products, they actually build the windows here in Utah, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. There's no middleman, and they can pass the savings on to you. They even offer buy now, pay later. So get in before the wait grows longer and get the $2,500 off. Get your new windows this spring. Make the call. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or visit AdvancedWindowsUSA.com.
Advertising used to be simple. Your options were radio, TV, newspaper, and let's not forget the yellow pages. Now it seems like a tidal wave of options. Podcast, cable TV, streaming, OTT, CTV, audio networks, smart speakers. On top of that, you need digital marketing for your website along with SEM, SEO, display, video, YouTube, email, and all the social media platforms. Look, you're the expert in your business. Wouldn't it be nice to have an expert to market you? We are Bonneville Salt Lake, the local marketing and media company you know and trust. We reach customers across all digital and social platforms and have the reach of traditional advertising available as well. We find your customer anytime, any place, anywhere on any device here in Utah or anywhere in the world. We work to optimize your results with our in-house local team of experts, providing you with qualified leads, not just impressions. Contact Stephanie Palmer at KSL for a free consultation, including a complete digital audit with no obligation or cost to you. Email spalmer@ksl.com. That's spalmer@ksl.com.
The Salt Lake Chamber is Utah's voice for business. Okay, that sounds great, but what does it really mean? Well, as Utah's largest and longest standing business association, they support and champion community prosperity throughout the state. And if you're in business, well, that's a very good thing for you. Be sure to listen to the Chamber's Speaking on Business, weekdays at 7:20, 11:55, and 5:20 p.m. on KSL News Radio.
I'm so excited to tell you about the KSL News Radio app. Dave and I love it. It's on our phones, it's on our iPads, and it's totally free. And there's so much value you get for paying nothing for this app.
Yeah, and it's not the KSL app that you already have on your phone. This is the KSL News Radio app designed specifically for the radio guys.
I'm looking at our webpage right now, and these are the same stories that you can get on the app. The latest on the housing market, all about the weather. And also you can watch and listen to all of your favorite KSL News radio shows right on the app.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Utah State's head basketball coach is moving on. Danny Sprinkle headed to the University of Washington. Second, a mother of 5 has died after an accident on a rented scooter in Salt Lake. Third, former President Trump got a break from an appeals court in New York. He'll be able to post a much lower bond to appeal a $462 million civil judgment. Right now, 41 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I got the best news over the weekend. I love it. I love it. Instagram and its sidekick Threads, which I'm on Threads. I never use Threads. I know more about Instagram. Of course, both owned by Meta. They are going to limit political content on their app. So you won't see as much of this garbage in your feeds. Love it.
Okay, there's a huge difference between limiting what's coming across in your feeds and the other part of the conversation where they are censoring certain posts. There's a huge difference because, for example, whether it's Instagram or it's X, you have a section that just gives you the feed of the people that you follow. And then you have a For You option where it just kind of sends you a bunch of videos or posts that they think you'll like. They're getting rid of this is what we think you'll like. They're getting rid of all the political posts.
The garbage.
Some people will see it as garbage.
You can get your political news anywhere. I get tired of having it everywhere.
You don't want it force-fed to you?
Well, I've always looked at Instagram, and it's probably from, the early days of using Instagram as a place to post pretty pictures. You go out to the Great Salt Lake and you capture a really awesome shot of a bird and you post that on Instagram and everybody loves it and we feel better about life. But unfortunately what's happened over the years is that politicians have commandeered and also political people who are just way too over the top on politics have commandeered these sites and they become not fun. And I was looking at the demographics on Instagram this morning. I was looking it up. I was curious, what are the demographics? Are the mainly women using it? And that's why Instagram is reacting to it. Are women sick of politics and we just don't want to see it anymore? And now Instagram, which I'm sure has done a massive amount of research on this. Media companies and social media companies do a ton of research on what their viewers and their listeners, their users want. They don't just... I'm going to wake up one morning and I'm going to pull the plug on political, garbage that's posting all over Instagram. They do the research. And the demographics really are split pretty evenly between men and women. So I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say we are all together as a mass, sick and tired of everywhere we turn, politicians and politics in our face, in our ears, in our brains. We want other stuff out of life. It's not as important as you're making it every single day. And by having it on every single platform all day long, we're done. We need you to, tamp it down. And if you won't tamp it down, then these sites are tamping it down for you.
Does it worry you at all that you've got Meta determining what you can and can't see?
No, I don't.
You trust them to feed you
here's the deal. They leave you an opt-out. So if I wanted to really, if I was just hungry to look at, bald eagles on Instagram over bald men fighting out the latest political war, I could opt out of it. There's a feature to opt out of it and then say, oh, shower me with all this ridiculous political blah, blah, blah. Just shower me with all of the screaming from the Senate and the House and politicians on the campaign trail. Please, I want so much of that because my life is not full without it. I can push a button on Instagram and get right back in the middle of it. So it's almost like I want to say it's like a negative option. They're automatically opting you out. And if you want to be opted back into it, maybe you think that's a positive option. You can do that, Dave. So they give you that option.
So how would you feel? You clearly have this feeling toward the political side of things. That's not what you want in your feed. What if they started opting you out of other things? Like, you know what? You no longer are going to get comedians in your feed. You're no longer going to get movie trailers or upcoming news or news in general. Would you be okay with that? Them saying, you know what? We are going to remove all news stories from your feed.
Yeah, I would be. And I'll tell you why, because I can get it so many other places. I've always looked at Instagram, as I said, as a place to post pretty pictures. In the beginning, I thought this is kind of a safe haven because I get to see all of my friends' cute photographs of their kids, their first day of school. I get to see the way that my friends are decorating their homes for the holidays. It's so awesome when they're celebrating a big win, maybe a graduation. But so much nasty stuff has commandeered Instagram that I've found myself staying off of it. And bingo, I think I just hit the nail on the head with why Instagram is experimenting. Maybe it's not an experiment. Maybe it'll be permanent with this, is because they're probably feeling the sense that, or they're seeing some data that shows that people are staying away from Instagram because we're longing for an escape from the minutia that's going on all day long. You're like, well, it's a big deal. We ought to know. Well, we do have to know, but when are we going to get an escape? And if the escape is you just have to shut off your phone and walk away from it, well, I'd also like an app that doesn't shove it down my throat every day. So this might be that app.
I think Instagram, they already offer that, right? With following. I can just click on my tab and say, I just want to look at posts from people that I follow. They don't put anything else in that feed. That is strictly who I am following. It's when you branch out, and TikTok is really the worst at this, where they don't really care who you follow. They're going to oh, okay, we'll take that into consideration. But basically, here's a steady stream of things we think you'll like. I think anytime they start picking and choosing what they will allow or not allow into feeds, I think that's a slippery slope that I don't like. Because, sure, you might be celebrating politics today, but what if they get rid of news the next day? And you say, well, there's lots of different places where they can get the news. Well, yeah, but a lot of people go to social media for their news. That's how they consume media. And I think that's where it gets kind of dangerous, where they start picking and choosing what you can watch.
But you keep overlooking what I just said, and that is you can opt into it if that's what you want. They're not banning it. They're just giving you the option to opt into it.
Let me opt out of it. That would be better.
You want it in reverse.
Yeah, I want it in reverse. I don't want you to say, you've got to jump through all these hoops if you want this stuff. Make me jump through a few hoops if I want to censor myself.
Okay.
If I want to censor my own feed, let me choose. I don't like you choosing for me.
Okay. So just clicking a button is too much.
Well, it's not just clicking a button. I mean, it's steps, right? It's content preferences. Go to critical content. You know, you've got to know how the settings. You can't get lost in it.
So here's what you do. If you really want to opt into it, you got to go to your settings. Under content preferences, click political content, and then choose the option to not limit political content. So there's 3 steps. I'll tell you what. We will load these steps on the KSLNewsRadio.com. And guess what? When you download the KSL News Radio app later today, you'll be able to see this story there and walk yourself through these steps on how to get more political content on your Instagram feed. This is exactly what the doctor ordered. Go do it.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour. Breaking news. Looks like the Utah State Aggies will have to find themselves a new men's head basketball coach. KSLSports.com cites several media reports saying Danny Sprinkle is moving on to the University of Washington after just one season in Logan. Utah State University celebrated a Mountain West Conference championship before a loss to Purdue in the second round of the NCAA tournament. The late winter weather not only giving our snowpack a last-minute boost before spring runoff could set us up to keep more of that water when it finally comes down. KSL News Radio's Adam Small explains.
To put it all in context, we already have more than enough water that we need for the year in our current snowpack, so any snow that falls now is just frosting on the cake. However, KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson says this rain and snow is helping to saturate the ground, so when spring runoff starts, that first batch of water is going to run into our lakes and reservoirs from the get-go instead of getting sucked into the dry ground like it did last year. And with more mountain snow falling this week, Matt says that snow water number is just going to keep rising.
Based on historical data, our snowpack will likely peak out sometime next week. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down 137 on the day, the NASDAQ up 16. And on the way, some of that snowpack is falling right now on the west side of the Salt Lake Valley. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Well, hello, it's me again. And like me, I'll bet you're ready for spring and a little green lawn again. I've got a tip. Don't spend a fortune hiring a lawn care company. Save some money and do it yourself. And here's how. Go to J&J Garden Center in Layton and purchase their simple, color-coded 5-step fertilizer system that covers up to 10,000 square feet and will rejuvenate your lawn for just $199.98. And nobody beats J&J's price. So for a lush, healthy green lawn, come and try J&J Garden Center's 5-step fertilizer system. I promise you won't regret it. Take the Layton Parkway exit, Main Street to Gentile, then west 2 miles. You've got to see it to believe it. You really do.
Country grown to your home, J&J Garden Center.
At JCW's, we think tipping might be getting a little out of hand. Like when you're asked to tip at the register before you've even been served, or when you're at the yogurt shop and find yourself serving yourself. And don't even get us started on frosted tips making a comeback. That's why at JCW's, when you pay for a 3rd-pound ranch bacon cheeseburger, that's what you pay. And no one at the register is going to stare longingly at you while you awkwardly maneuver through the tip screen for food you don't even have yet. Honestly, we're just happy to see you at any of our 5 locations in Provo, South Jordan, Lehigh, Harriman, and American Fork. So come on in and enjoy some quality time and great food with family and friends. And we promise, we won't be pushing you for a tip.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's, and we just want to say thank you, and especially to our loyal customers. We want you to know that at JCW's, your business is all the tip we need. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
Looking for a secure retirement plan without market risk? Look no further. Lyle Boss, president of Boss Financial, specializes in no market risk retirement strategies with guarantees of principal, guaranteed growth, and lifelong income. Join Lyle right here each Saturday and Sunday for his Safe Money radio show, and call him now at 855-355-SAFE for your complimentary customized Safe Money information kit and Safe Money book. Nothing but upside here at 855-355-SAFE.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a crash in Utah County northbound I-15 near Main Street, Spanish Fork on the shoulder. Also, a stalled vehicle on the ramp southbound I-15 at 3300 South. Zero res. Get one room cleaned starting at just $25 with a 4-room minimum and 25% off all other services. Use promo code CLEANWEEK, Zero res. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
And our KSL weather, we could see more rain and snow showers today and tomorrow with highs only in the 40s. It'll be cloudy with a chance of showers through the rest of the week. And right now we're at 41 degrees, mostly cloudy downtown. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
Okay. Congress has approved that $1.2 trillion spending bill. I didn't even, did I blink? Did I miss the government shutdown? Was there a government shutdown, Boyd?
Well, if you were awake between midnight and 2 a.m. Eastern Time, Friday night into Saturday, you may have noticed a slight tremor in the force because the government was actually not funded for about 2 hours. Not that anything happens between midnight and 2 a.m. on a Saturday.
But on the ticker of government shutdowns, that one's going on the ticker.
It's going on like
But
yeah, I
Senate,
guarantee you.
The Senate got it passed, but barely, it sounds like.
It was like 75, I think, votes for the bill. Again, it was a 1,000-plus page bill, $1.2 trillion in spending. Nobody read it. Nobody knew what was in it. But they got it done, and the president signed it, and so onward we go. And so remember, this was the second can. We now have this two-tiered kicking of the can, duplicate can kicking, because of Speaker Johnson has done this two-tiered approach, which I actually think is a good idea. It's just not working out that well. So both cans have been successfully kicked to September 30th. So the good news is we don't have to have the shutdown showdown conversation until we get to September.
Until the
That's
election.
a good thing.
Until the
However, remember, this is last year's spending. So they're actually already almost 4 months behind schedule for what they need to deliver on September the 30th. And September the 30th will be a challenge because every member of Congress in the House will be in the middle of their reelection. So nobody wants to deal with that. So I'm going to make my prediction now. You can write this down for the file, Dave. On the 30th of September of this year, we will have a double kicking of the can to December 13th, which will take us past the midterm election, past Thanksgiving, and then we'll have one little flurry before in a lame duck session of Congress, and they will spend more money than we've ever spent in history. Write it down. Etch it in stone.
That is exactly how it's playing. I don't even need to write it down because I know that's exactly how it's going to play out. So is there a way to boil down what this $1.2 trillion was spent on? Did they keep it the same? Is it just
mostly status quo stuff? Some additional spending here. I mean, there's always stuff you can't even get through it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff tucked in there, and so it's a little more. But again, this was defense, education. These were some of the big ticket items, so they had to get done. No question about that. But again, the process was horrible. There was no real scrutiny, and remember, this doesn't allow. Let's take the Department of Defense for example. If they have a program that is failing, they can't swap out that. They can't say that's not working. Let's do this instead. They can't even do that because this is a continuing resolution. So only what has been appropriated to be spent on a specific program can be spent. So even if something's not working, even if you have a great new idea, can't do it because it was not part of the process.
Because I've allocated this $100 billion and it's going to be spent on this
bad program. Yeah.
Even if they realize after $10 billion, they're like, oh, this is a disaster. Let's reallocate.
They can't do it. So that hurts the military. That hurts education. It hurts everything. And so sometimes we cheer that we didn't have a government shutdown, but we have to be careful about what we're cheering about because in many cases we're perpetuating bad programs at the expense of some things government could do really well, and they're not going to get a chance to do it.
And it's been going on for so long.
Yes.
This is how we run the government. So, it's just unfortunate. It keeps happening year after, and we keep talking about it. And that's why when the government shuts down for 2 hours in the middle of the night, you don't hear anything about it because we're just numb to it. But it's just not the way to run government.
It's not the way to run anything. Not a popsicle stand, not a drug cartel. Drug cartels run far more efficiently than the United States government.
Lemonade stands do too.
Yeah. They're actually the ultimate in
illegal lemonade stands here in Utah.
Remember those are illegal.
Was it at least okay? I'm trying to find a silver lining here, Boyd. I'm working at it.
Keep trying.
So, okay, this two-tiered approach that Speaker Johnson is moving forward. Are we at all a step in the right direction? Are we getting any closer to regular order? Are we getting any closer to fixing this disaster? Oh man,
we're right back in it.
Today is not that day.
It's not that day.
It's not that day, and so part of it will be what happens in the fall. So you've also had another member of Congress announce that they are stepping away, which makes the Republican majority one. It will be a majority of one.
Yeah.
And so that gets even more complicated. So sadly, in the short term, it's going to become more political. What I hope it does is it sparks some conversations amongst we the people to decide who we're going to send back there and hold accountable those we've already sent back there to do what they're sent. They're running for a specific job, and we should hold them accountable for doing the specific job that they say they want.
So do you think Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's specific job is to try to oust Speaker Mike Johnson?
And I do not wish to inflict pain on our conference and to throw the House in chaos. But this is basically a warning, and it's time for us to go through the process, take our time, and find a new Speaker of the House that will stand with Republicans and our Republican majority instead of standing with the Democrats.
So she introduces this last week. She was upset. We saw the press gaggle around her on the steps of the Capitol. Where is that going to go?
And so this was the fallout from the House voting on the $1.2 trillion. And so she's saying, I didn't like the process. I didn't like the way this went down. And I actually agree with her. I didn't like the process. I didn't like the way things went down. Vacating the Speaker's chair is going to not be helpful in any way, shape, or form. That's just not going to be a good thing. So she's filed a petition. So nothing has been triggered. as of yet.
Okay.
Important thing to remember is if she triggers this vote, then there will be a vote for Speaker. And the interesting thing when we watched this play out with Kevin McCarthy is everyone thought, oh, the Republicans ousted their own Speaker. The reality was all of the Democrats voted to oust Kevin McCarthy, along with 8 Republicans. And so it's interesting and kind of gets in the weeds a little bit there. But it is one of those where you have to ask the question. And I'm not absolving the Republicans. Republicans brought this on. They can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory 6 ways to Sunday. It's amazing. And that's what they've been doing. And so the interesting thing is who will actually stand up on both the Republicans and the Democratic side of the aisle and say, this is not the way to govern. What is in the best interest of the country? Now, some Democrats are saying, we'll save your speakership, Mike Johnson, if you will bring to the floor the Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan funding bill that's been passed in the Senate. And so it's a little bit of a quid pro quo there coming from some Democrats saying, if you do this, we'll help you save your job. The reality is Republicans and Democrats on both sides should stand up and say, we are going to govern the people's house by the people, and we're going to bring the people's business to the floor and not all this theatrics and platform stuff that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been in the middle of.
But that's what it has been. And I'm trying to think if I have time to ask this. I have time to ask it. Okay, with Representative, it's Gallagher, right? It's Mike Gallagher that's stepping down.
Yeah.
He's the one that brought up the TikTok bill. So this was kind of his baby. What do you make of all of these representative senators that are resigning midterm?
Yeah, it's very indicative of what I have dubbed the flat forehead society. It's the number of people who are serious about the job, but they walk around the Capitol all day slapping their forehead saying, a lemonade stand can't run this way. The communist government can't run this way. Nothing can run this way. And many of them are saying, I am here to make a difference. And if I can't make a difference here, I will go make a difference in my community. I'll go run a business. I'll go run a nonprofit. I have other ways I can make a difference. And for all of us, we the people, those are the people we need to be looking at, supporting, and voting for. Because if they all leave, then we end up with a kakistocracy, where the least qualified to govern. They may be really good at TikTok. They may be really good at social media posts. They may be great at ranting and raving about things, but they're not serious about governing. But if we create such an environment where everyone's walking around slapping their forehead saying, I can't believe we're doing this today, then we will end up with a kakistocracy, and that's a dangerous space to be.
Today's word of the day, kakistocracy. Thank you, Boyd.
I'll send you the bill, Dave.
That's a good one. Thanks, Boyd. This segment of the Dave and Dujanovic Show is brought to you by Window World. If you want to replace your windows and doors without the hassle or baloney, call Window World of Utah today.
The next couple of segments, we're going to look at dating apps and marriage. There's this really interesting trend going on. It seems like dating apps are in a downward spiral and marriage is on the upswing. What is going on? We're going to take an in-depth look at both next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
You know KSL is the only news radio for your car, right?
The only news radio for your smart speaker.
Come here in the morning. It's the latest news and traffic. In the afternoon, news and updated weather.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
Introducing Peach Doors and Windows. Are you ready to upgrade your home with stunning new doors, but you're like me and you're just overwhelmed with how to begin? Well, at Peach, experience the luxury of custom-made doors that are tailored specifically for you. It's not just about looks, it's about durability, it's about security to protect what matters most. Fiberglass, energy-efficient aluminum, custom oversized glass doors, and so much more. Let Peach help you find the perfect match for your home, budget, and of course, your personal style. Visit the showrooms. No pushy sales tactics, only guidance from their very experienced staff. No inflated markups just to offer so-called discounts. Amazing home transformations begin with windows and doors. Serving Logan all the way to St. George. Just Google Peach Building Products and see it all for yourself.
wherever you find yourself on the road of life.
The freeway blocked because of the jackknife truck trailer.
It's better with guidance from the KSL traffic team.
It looks like traffic there is starting to move again.
Time your commute with traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, mornings and afternoons.
On KSL News Radio.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Getting your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt can lead to some spirited reactions.
Jackson Hewitt, yeah!
Jackson Hewitt is so sure they'll get you your biggest refund that if they don't, you get your money back plus $100.
Jackson Hewitt, yeah!
Switch to Jackson Hewitt and we'll beat what you paid last year, even if you filed online.
Yeah!
Ain't nothing to it. Switch to Jackson Hewitt and pay less for tax prep, guaranteed. Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
3 days only. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Save thousands on hot tubs and swim spas. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas. Utah State Fair Park. Hot tubs discounted 40 to 80% to the lowest possible price, starting at $29.99. Free professional delivery. Take possession tomorrow, next week, next month, or next season. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Utah State Fair Park. Shop over a dozen models of swim spas from 11 feet to over 19 feet. Swim spas offer low-impact exercise, active family fun, unsurpassed relaxation, and installation in one day. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Everything must go. Free parking, free admission. You can't afford to miss this. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas.
Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Utah State Fair Park. Visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
The best thing about my KSL News Radio app is that it's at my fingertips all day long. And if I get the notifications, I click on the app, there's the story right there. It makes it so easy to carry KSL News Radio with you. You can click on it for stories. You can click on it to listen to your favorite shows live right there on your smartphone. And don't forget, it's totally free. So take a few minutes this afternoon and download the KSL News Radio app.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the Utah State Aggies will have to find themselves a new head coach. Danny Sprinkle reportedly moving on to the University of Washington. Second, Utah's snowpack just keeps getting better and better as we move into spring. And third, former President Trump got a break from an appeals court in New York that said he doesn't have to come up with the full amount of a civil judgment to appeal that case. Right now, 41 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I'm going to hand control of my dating app over to my favorite co-host in the whole wide world, Dave Noriega.
All right. Finally, some power.
I've been reading up a lot of coverage lately about dating apps, and it just seems like they are massively on the decline. And as the only user in this room of dating apps, I think I'm qualified to tell you why, although you might have a different opinion or somebody else out there. But Bumble alone is announcing employee cuts, profits, something like there's been a $32 million net loss. They're going to cut the workforce by 30% to make it up. That's according to a site called TechCrunch. New York Times has done coverage on this. Time Magazine has done coverage on it. Dave does not use dating apps, so anything he says here, take it with a grain of salt.
I never used it. I was like already married.
But
so
you did say if you had used
I would have dominated the dating app world. I would have been amazing at it.
That's where I wanted you to come out hot on. I mean, it's like you've said that a million times on this show and behind the scenes. If I were on dating apps back in the day, if they were a thing, I would have absolutely dominated.
Okay, number one, you're texting. I'm a great texter. I'm fantastic.
No, you're not. I can't get you to text me back for hours.
That's not true. I am a great texter, and maybe even if it's not
work-related,
speedy, it's clever, and clever always plays well. So I know Photoshop like the back of my hand, so I would make that profile pic look amazing. I'll make myself look like
so when you
a supermodel.
So when you show up in person, you don't look anything like your photos?
Listen.
That would be weird.
I would change it just enough. I would change it enough to be interesting, but you're like, that's still the same person.
One of the reasons that dating apps are struggling, according to different news organizations, is because people are unwilling to upgrade to the paid version of the dating app. So what you might not know about dating apps, and there's a ton of them out there. There's Bumble, there's Hinge, there's Tinder, there's Match. Is that still a thing, or is that just where older adults like myself? I'm not on Match, but Match. There's so many other. They all try to come up with a new
Mutual. That's a popular one.
That's
here.
right. That's a very popular one here. For a newfangled approach, like Bumble's big thing is, well, women get to select. They get the ones that decide whether to swipe. So, I can swipe on a guy or not, or I can swipe left, and then he's off my page altogether.
Okay.
I might never see him again, although I found that that's not necessarily true. They kind of come back around. If you swipe right, you've expressed interest. But if you upgrade, you get more features. And I don't know what the fees are, but I seem to remember I upgraded a couple of times. It was like $11 a month or something like that.
That's reasonable,
No,
right?
it's not.
That's not reasonable?
No, because you
won't
you're
spend
gambling.
$11 on an app, but you'll go like $16 for Netflix.
No.
And you watch one series the entire year?
I will go years single, as opposed to spend $11 a month to find the perfect match. But I think there's other reasons why these apps are failing. There's an oversaturation of options.
Okay.
And I find that the dating apps are so impersonal because you really are being introduced to a complete stranger.
Right.
You don't have any background on them at all. You don't know, how what they can tell you what they want to tell you. You don't know if that's the truth or not.
Yeah.
So when I've been on dating apps in the past and I go to meet somebody in person, it's not just that their photos don't match. That's the least of the issues. And usually, actually, I will say from my experience with men, their photos do match. Middle-aged men, you match your photos. Good job. Maybe men have more of a problem with women's photos not matching. I don't know. I don't date women, so I don't know how that works out. But from my point of view, I can point them out of a crowd when I show up.
Yeah.
For an initial coffee meetup or something. But what I find is that their backstories are so riddled with problems that they don't put any of that on the app. Right? They don't want to tell you that they've served time behind
you don't
bars
want to lead
for
with
10 years.
your worst moments,
your
do you?
warts. Right? But those are the deal breakers. So what I have found is that you can't really find out who somebody is. It's really hard when you're meeting somebody on a dating app to find out what their real story is, Dave. And I have just found that to be the case over and over and over again, to the point where I'm spinning my wheels on these things, that they're not even worth my time. I would much rather do something that I'm going to get something. It'd be like being on a hamster wheel all day long and never getting anywhere.
How is that different than just regular dating?
I don't know,
where someone walks up to you and says, "Hey, my name's so and so. Can I get your number?" How's that any different than the way I did it 25 years ago?
The crazy thing for me, well, first of all, I think later in life dating comes with a whole new set of challenges that I didn't experience in my 20s, and you probably didn't experience. Somebody has decades of opportunity to totally royally screw up their lives by the time they hit 50, right?
You can only do so much damage by 22.
Right. They've been bankrupt a couple of times. They haven't figured out their finances. And you're like, oh, you're a gold digger. Well, no, I just want somebody to match my vibe. Like I don't want somebody that's $400,000 in credit card debt. It's just like I can't deal with that. So how is it any different? I think I know for a fact I haven't had any luck getting set up either from friends. You know my stories. You know them better than anybody. And you know that I haven't had any luck with setups where sweet friends think that they've found me a match and then they set me up and I find out that, there's a whole, and they don't know. They don't know the backstory either.
Right, because no one's leading with their worst moments.
And it takes a while to figure out who somebody is. And so, at my age in life, where the runway is getting shorter, in terms of trying to find somebody and figure out what they're all about and what they stand for and what their moral values are, it's just not worth it anymore. So I think that's why more and more people are not, or I think more single people are finding less interest in dating apps because it's the spiral to nowhere. You end up nowhere. And you've spent a lot of time and effort. I also, I think there's just a lot of people who've experienced some of the what I'll call horror stories on dating apps. Where they meet somebody and they find out that they're still married. There's that. That's a horror story if you end up in the middle of a love triangle and you didn't realize you were part of the love triangle. There's people who have had significant bad decisions they've made in their past, where they've, been involved in criminal activity, drug dealing. I'm not, talking about going and getting some CBD oil down the street. I'm talking about like literally being
real dangerous stuff. Right?
Yeah, selling hard drugs to people that kill them. I am just saying like they've served time for things. So I think there's just so many horror stories out there now and they're getting around, and it's a lot easier for these horror stories to get around with like apps like TikTok and Facebook where you're able to share your horror stories that I think people are running from dating apps.
I wonder if it's running from dating apps or just running from dating in general.
That's a great point.
Because a lot of what you've said, I don't know if it's solved by face-to-face meetings or being set up. A lot of those problems that you just described, I don't think are unique to dating apps. The reason I think dating apps are good, and again, having no experience, but outside looking in, is you at least know somebody's looking. Somebody is willing. If you just go walk up to somebody, at a restaurant, that would be, you have no idea what situation
single,
they're in.
That'd be super awkward.
Yeah. And I'm married, I just don't wear a wedding ring or whatever the thing might be, but or I'm in a relationship. The great thing about a dating app is you at least know, at least on its face, that these are people that are interested and they're interested in dating.
Well, maybe this is the reason, too, why divorce is on the decline. You know what I mean? We're going to talk about that next. Divorce.
Because the alternative dating, not awesome.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking to your single friends and you find out that they're in a disastrous situation and the single life trying to find a decent match, you're like, well, let's just get some intense therapy together. Or even if you move into separate homes for a while and you separate for a little bit and you work things out. But divorce is on the decline in the nation, and it piqued our interest so much we thought, well, let's get our favorite divorce attorney, Todd Weiler, the state senator, Todd Weiler, on the line to see what he sees in his own practice about, divorce. Next.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top local story this hour. Significant historical artifacts now on display in Salt Lake City after the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints acquired them from the Community of Christ. Here's KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe.
The Church History Museum has several items filling an entire room, including letters between Joseph and Emma Smith, their original portraits, and the original door at Liberty Jail. The curator says it's all about preserving these items while still letting people come see them and learn about the history.
And the display will continue through October. A judge in New York has set a trial date of April 15th in the criminal case against former President Trump. This involves hush money payments to an adult movie star. He's accused of falsifying business records in that case. Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, has already pleaded guilty to federal campaign finance violations in that case. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average now down 145 points on the day. The NASDAQ is down about 12. And our KSL weather will be clearing up. At least the snow showers are going to stop eventually. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-8157. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-8157. That's 800-575-8157. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. And did you know that we get a bunch of service calls per year from people who didn't even hire us? That means they originally hired someone else to replace their siding, gutters, and windows. Then later, when a problem popped up, they tried to call their contractor back to fix it, only to find out that the contractor has ceased to exist. They're gone, done, out of business. At RGS Exteriors, we've been serving Utah for 70 years. As a fifth-generation owned contractor, we've got customers who are the grandkids of our customers we had in the 1950s and 60s. We're not going anywhere. We will be here when you need us, period. For siding, gutters, and windows, now and forever, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit at rgsexteriors.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsexteriors.com.
Emergency traffic and weather together now, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meeks.
The roads are still pretty rough in Utah County. On I-15 southbound, we've had a crash still blocking a couple of left lanes of traffic. Southbound I-15 about 1600 south, going from Springville to Spanish Fork, and you do have delays. Then right on the border, going from Orem to Provo, an accident southbound I-15. Most of those vehicles are to the right, but UHP is blocking a right lane, and it's causing delays. SNF Roofing is your trusted source for quality and affordability. They've been the top roofing company in Utah for over 40 years. Schedule an estimate now. Get a free quote at snsroofinginc.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
And our KSL weather, some of the lake effect snow showers we've seen this morning are tapering off, but showers will continue today and tomorrow with highs only in the 40s. and it'll be cloudy with a chance of showers through the rest of the week. 39 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake right now. I'm Dan Bonitz from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
All right. Divorce rates are on the decline. That was the most surprising takeaway to me from the, and I'm glad to see this. Divorce is hard. It's expensive. It costs you half. It's, so it's probably best if you can, at least financially and hopefully emotionally, to work through a marriage and stay together.
I had forgotten this until this morning, but my mom tells a story that on her wedding day, my dad, as they're driving away, turns to her and said, "Don't ever ask for a divorce. I will never give you one." And she looks at him like, that's quite something to say to a bride on her wedding day. But my dad had gone through a divorce, and it was kind of an ugly divorce when he was a kid, and it had left such an impact on him. He felt, for some reason, that was the appropriate time to let my mom know that we are going to work through anything.
So it was your grandparents on your dad's side that got divorced.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask you why, but I am curious. Maybe you want to tell us off the air. I am always curious as to what drives divorce.
Grandpa was pretty wild.
Oh, well, that sums it up. I am curious. I mean, I don't want to nose in anybody else's business, and I know what caused my own divorce, and it's hard. It's difficult to go through a divorce, but sometimes it's more difficult to stay married. And I want to ask, he's a state senator. That is his part-time gig, but his full-time job is what do they call you? They don't call you a divorce attorney, do they, Todd? That sounds so abrupt.
Thanks, Debbie. I am an attorney and I do divorces. I do a lot more than divorces, but I do a lot of family law. But I also do business divorces, like with two LLC partners who are splitting up.
I see. Oh, so it's like a divorce in business. Okay, so you're
business divorce.
Okay. Attorney Todd Weiler live on the line with us right now to talk about, so while divorce is going down, marriages are on the upswing. So it does sound like people are trying to, stay connected through matrimony. What are you seeing in your practice when people are coming to you for a divorce?
Well, I mean, my practice doesn't reflect like statewide trends. So I have plenty of people calling me. I did have a first last month, or earlier this month, and that is one of my clients called and said, "You know what? We're going to try to work it out. Will you dismiss the divorce filing?" And I did. I was happy to do that. But that's so unusual. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. But, Debbie, I think, there are so many benefits to being married. But can I just tell you one? I talked to a guy last week, and he had been with his partner for 21 years. They had 3 kids together, and they never got married. And now he wants to divide up the debt. And she's like, no, that debt's all in your name. And it's not marital debt because they were never married. So I will tell you, when couples split up, if they weren't married, it can be a hardship not being married, just because the divorce laws generally kind of split everything 50-50, debt and assets. And so with this guy that called me, his girlfriend, 21-year girlfriend, is probably going to get half the equity in the house, but maybe not get stuck with the debts because they were never married, but her name is on the deed. So marriage also can protect you in a divorce, as ironic as that sounds.
That was a wild turn of events. I did not see that happening. Help walk us through it. As you meet with people, I'm sure they usually come to you in a dark time. What is your sales pitch, so to speak, like your reality check to folks that sit down and say,
Dave, I never push anyone into a divorce. I have clients. I have talked several men into staying married once I've painted the bleak picture of alimony and child support and half of their assets. I'm honest about that. And I've had people come to me and they have questions and then they come back 6 or 12 months later and decide to file. But a lot of people, when they first come to me, they just want to get some questions answered. And they've heard things from friends, some of which is true, some of which isn't true. But I never push anyone into divorce because that's not my job. My job is to help people kind of get through their obstacles in their lives, but I don't try to push anybody in any one direction.
Do you get a sense, though, anecdotally, Todd, about what the main reason is for divorce?
Well, I mean, it's there are some themes like money. It's probably less intimacy than you would expect, but sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's pornography use. But usually it's more than one thing. Usually there's a lot of people can tolerate a few mistakes or weaknesses, but usually there is kind of one culminating event. It might be, an outburst, or sometimes it's stepkids, if it's a second marriage for one or both of them, that can be really hard. And, it's not usually the mother-in-law, but usually the mother-in-law is piling on when there are problems. Often I hear that. But, one of the interesting things, Debbie, is I'm surprised, sometimes when I'm dealing with people going through divorce, one of them has had an affair, but that wasn't the reason for the divorce. Like the affair was 10 years ago and they got through that, but now there's a different reason for the divorce. But, some people do get divorced because of infidelity, but I'm surprised at how many couples can work through infidelity if there's a willingness there to repair the relationship. That's often
That's interesting because that would be the deal breaker for me. It just would be. I don't think I could ever get through that. But I haven't been faced with that, so maybe if I were, I'd be stronger and be able to get through it. That's interesting, Todd.
There's a guy at BYU named Brad Wilcox, but then there's another Brad Wilcox back in Virginia who just publishes books a lot and is on the radio a lot about the benefits of marriage. I got to meet him in January, and there are so many benefits of being married and staying married. I'm a member of the Utah Marriage Commission, and we just celebrated our anniversary this year. But and you can Google Utah Marriage Commission. We have some podcasts that are for free. But I just want to say most marriages are worth saving, and most people 5 years after a divorce are less happy than they were in the marriage, and that's reported by CNN. Which some people think, if I get divorced, all of my problems will go away. But in many cases, they're just trading one set of problems for a different set of problems. And divorce often leads to bankruptcy because if people were struggling with with one household, now after divorce, you've got the same total amount of money minus attorney's fees. But now you're trying to support two households, 2 gas bills, 2 mortgages or rent payments, et cetera. And often that just doesn't work.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Attorney Todd Weiler.
Yeah, Todd, I want to have you back on the air in the next week or so because I do want you to walk us through the benefits of being married. Like, what are they really finding through research about the benefits of being married?
Utah Marriage Commission, Deb. That's I just learned. I learned about that. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I want to know, and it doesn't always have. He mentioned some financial benefits of being married, but I would like to know more about that. Straight ahead, Boeing, a big shakeup at Boeing today. Not a big surprise, but certainly a big shakeup. We're going to tell you what that is. I want you to think about this. This could be a big reason why. When you think about Boeing now, what do you think about, Dave?
Planes blown apart, or at least a chunk of it.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Believe it or not, it's time for spring cleaning. Beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking today. You're not the only one who's tired of winter this year. Your carpets are too. With Zero Res's platinum-rated cleaning systems and environmentally friendly ZR water, they'll extract all that nasty out so your home will look and smell like a home should, with their no residue difference. It's what separates Zero Res from the competition. Just check out the 3,300 raving customer reviews online with a 4.8 Google rating and see what the hype is all about. lot. Right now, get one room of carpet cleaning starting at just $25 with a 4-room minimum. And also take 25% off all other services like air ducts, tile, upholstery, and rugs by using promo code CLEANWEEK to celebrate Utah's Cleaning Week. You owe it to yourself and your family to breathe healthy, happy, and clean. Call Zero Res right now, 801-288-9376, or go online to ZeroRes.com and say you want the Clean Week special. Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Hey guys, meet Salt Lake City's favorite men's health expert.
Hi, I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. I've been treating men suffering from low T and ED for over 5 years. And before that, I was a combat medic in the Army and a Navy corpsman in the Marine Corps, responsible for my men and their health every day. I understand firsthand the health challenges that impact men. Many of my patients come to me because they've noticed a lack of energy, loss of strength, increased belly fat, and even depression. Low T can impact your whole life, but so can proper treatment of it. And hearing that my patients are back to living life to the fullest, that's the best part of my job.
Guys, if you're looking for affordable, guaranteed low T and ED solutions, contact Revive for a free T-check and exam today, saving you $199. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
A fiduciary has the regulatory obligation to put your best interest first. Trajan Wealth is a financial fiduciary for your investments. With Trajan Wealth, the more you make, the more we make. Our interests are aligned. Most other financial advisors are brokers held to a lesser standard and are paid an upfront commission to sell you something. Call Trajan Wealth 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
In the history of the world, nobody has ever said, "Yay, we need a new roof." But when things aren't quite right up there, don't wait. Call IWC Roofing, the highest-rated roofing contractor in Utah. IWC has been in business since 1997, and they offer the best value pricing in Utah, along with the best warranty in the business. They're one of the few Owens Corning Platinum-certified roofers in the entire state. They have their own installers, no subcontractors crawling around on your roof. And at IWC Roofing, they'll send you pictures from up on the roof to show that you're getting exactly what you paid for. In most cases, they'll re-roof your home in one day. They'll clean up and pressure wash your driveway. IWC roofs more homes than any other company in Utah, so they can offer you a better price. And right now, an extra $1,500 off your new roof. Call IWC Roofing for a no-pressure quote, 801-232-5690. Call 801-232-5690 or go to IWCRoofingUtah.com.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Farasha is a woman-owned fashion consulting company that offers production and photo shoot services, professional wardrobe styling, creative retail marketing strategies, collaborative events, and more. Founder Vanessa De Palma Wright joins us with more.
I launched Farasha in 2009 in Park City as a pop-up boutique concept representing emerging designers. We set up in niche resort towns such as Sun Valley, Jackson Hole, and Aspen to promote their brands in unique, untapped markets. We're currently exploring Brooklyn, New York as our next stop. Since then, Farasha has transformed into a full-service fashion consulting company, offering services ranging from styled photo shoots to fashion-focused experiences. As a passionate stylist, I enjoy encouraging women to utilize fashion as a form of expression to feel confident, beautiful, and the best possible version of themselves. I work methodically with my clients to achieve their fashion and business objectives with memorable results. Whether you're looking to transform yourself with a wardrobe update, book a photo shoot for your company, or execute a unique bespoke event, Farasha is your go-to for all things fashion. Learn more at farashastyle.com.
For 15 years, the Farasha team has been committed to fulfilling your fashion and business objectives with strategic action plans, creative production, and measurable results. Learn more at their website. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
I use my KSL News Radio app so many times a day. It's convenient. It's on my iPhone. It's on my iPad. And I can listen to Tim and Amanda every single morning in the bathroom on my KSL News Radio app, Dave.
Eyeliner, Tim and Amanda.
That's right. It's exactly how it goes.
Lipstick, Tim and Amanda. Yeah, it's different from the KSL app. You probably already have that on your phone. It's the KSL News Radio app. There's the distinction. Look for the KSL News Radio app.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, historical artifacts recently acquired by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are now on display at the Church History Museum. Second, Utah State looking back on a successful basketball season, getting ready to look for a new head coach. Danny Sprinkle reportedly moving on to the University of Washington. And third, a judge in New York has set a trial date of April 15th on charges against former President Trump related to payments made to an adult film star during the 2016 presidential campaign. 39 degrees and cloudy right now, and back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
When you think about Boeing, what do you think about?
I don't want to have too hard of feelings from the guys that fly me around, but quite honestly, I think about the door panel blowing off mid-flight and watching some guy that is sitting right next to the door as the wind is whipping his hair as the plane door has been blown off.
Yeah, the plug.
Yeah.
The door plug blows off that Boeing plane. That happened a couple of months ago in January. It was an Alaska Airlines flight. And remember, we found out later after that incident happened that Alaska Airlines had decided that plane had some issues, that it wasn't going to be flying it across the Pacific to Hawaii anymore. So they kept it over land. And then they had that happen. But Boeing has had a series of mid-flight, I'll call them somewhat minor debacles, thank goodness. But then there's this news that came out, I saw it in The Hill. It was reported that, going back to your story, Dave, about the Alaska Airlines flight that lost the door plug, the FBI then sent out letters. Their victim specialist sent out letters to passengers on that flight and said, you may be the victim of a crime. So there's more to that. And then as a result of all that, the reason we're talking about this today is not to remind you about all of the scary moments on Boeing flights. It's because the CEO has announced he is stepping down. So that is a huge announcement, and I think there's others as well that will be stepping down. We're going to get with News Nation to find out more.
Yeah, and what will this change, or is this is what happens when something terrible happens to your company, that the CEO gets axed? Joe Khalil joins us right now, Washington correspondent with News Nation. Joe, what does this mean for Boeing right now?
Well, it's not just a CEO, as you point out. So it's going to be a whole spate of leadership that by the end of the year is going to change. So David Calhoun, he's at the very top. The chairman of the board, a guy named Larry Kellner, and then their vice president, a guy named Stan Deal. All of them are leaving at the end of the year. Interesting that they're not leaving immediately, but they say that they've still got work to do to sort of turn the public image, the actual safety concerns around at Boeing. So, in the immediate term, I'm not sure what it's going to mean, in terms of like changes to operational day-to-day. But obviously, you look at the stock price is going to be impacted, number one. If they have new leadership, do they have brand new safety standards? Number two, the goal here is clearly to regain the public's trust, which obviously they've lost for a whole host of issues, most of which you've already talked about here. But it almost seemed inevitable that something like this was going to have to happen in order for, the company to appear like it was at least taking these concerns seriously.
I just always have such heartburn with a lot of, board members or the CEO stepping down when something big like this happens, because I'm like, well, does that solve the safety concerns that the public, but there's been a series of safety issues, Joe, on Boeing planes. I don't know if it was just a rash of horrible luck or timing with Boeing. I do feel like flying is still the safest way to get around, and I'm sure statistics would bear that out. And also this is a couple of months after that incident on Alaska Airlines when they lost that door plug. So was there a culmination of things that caused him to make this announcement today?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I mean, obviously that terrifying incident back in January where the panel flew off and there was a hole in the plane. I mean, just a nightmare scenario, right? But it wasn't just that. Just last month in February, there were some 50 Boeing jets that the company themselves discovered issues with. Apparently, the engineers had drilled holes into the wrong places in certain parts, and that actually, there's speculation that was maybe the root cause of the January incident. So they had to prevent 50 more jets from going out. So that's in addition to the panel flying off in January. And then you also had, and this got less attention, but it was still a big deal. There was a cargo plane, so it wasn't commercial passengers, but a cargo plane that was in the sky and started literally shooting out fire. Like you could see flames from the sky because they had a mechanical issue. So the FAA has really cracked down. Now they have essentially said that Boeing has to limit how many 737s they're even allowed to produce and sell until there's more confidence that they can do this safely. So it's not even just a matter of safety. Obviously, that's number one. But just purely sales right now, they're limited in how much business they can do. And then if you are Delta or American Airlines or another big, airline company anywhere, are you trusting the jets that Boeing is selling you? So even the airlines have come out, which is rare, and really rebuked Boeing for what they're doing. So I think all of those things, combination, it was not just the January incident. I think it was building and building and building, and now you finally have enough juice there to say, okay, leadership's got to change. And I think that's what we're seeing now.
Joe, thank you for joining us. Joe Khalil with News Nation.
Just looking into more information about these letters that went out, it said 9 passengers on that Alaska Airlines flight back in January 737 MAX 9 passengers might be victims of crime, according to the FBI. So Reuters is reporting, Dave, that the FBI told passengers who were on that flight on January 5th that they may be victims of a crime. And that the FBI, we know that, the FBI has been investigating, although they declined to comment. But usually with things involved, with airplanes and being in the sky and sometimes even at the airport itself, the FBI will get involved. But the victim specialist at the FBI in the Seattle office had sent out letters to the passengers there saying you may be a victim of a crime. Raises our
I don't
curiosity.
even know what that means.
I don't know. We'd be purely speculating.
Well, I will say this. I know that when that panel blew off, lots of stuff got sucked out of the plane. And, in fact, they found an iPhone on the side of a road that somebody picked up and powered it up. So I don't know what they're saying as far as the crime, what they're referring to. But, yeah, it's a fascinating development.
Looking at all angles on that to make sure things were done properly after the plane was delivered. I'm sure they're going to be looking at all of that, whether the paperwork was filed properly. So there's a lot more going on with Boeing. Also a lot going on with snow. We were talking about that during the show. What was going on Mountain View Corridor in the west side of town. And Maria has more on that.